across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome along. Tuesday afternoon, we're live across the UK. You might realise, if you're tuning in on YouTube, that the background is a bit hazy, because apparently we've a technical glitch. This is on a par with what has happened to M&S. I was just saying to Ian, I don't know if you know this, Marks and Spencer's have got niche food on the shelves because of some computer glitch. It's all gone mad. I couldn't even get my favourite sandwich. I'm bereft. We need biscuits, we need tea, we need a new background. Look at her face. Jodie's trying to get through the door with a chair. She's looking very grumpy this afternoon. Welcome along to Drive. Thank you to Ian. Back tomorrow, of course, with the afternoon show from 1 o'clock. As ever, the people's choice, the housewives' favourite, Ian Collins. But for the next 3 hours, Drive. Before we set out what there is to talk about, because there's loads as ever, 3 ways of getting hold of us. You should know by now the score. We love you to be involved. Without you, there is no show. In fact, I would have... Anyway, there we go. 0344 499 1000 is the telephone number. Our Jodie here, taking your calls. Whatever you want to talk about, we'll talk net zero. We'll talk about the biggest power cut in Europe. I don't give a toss if there's no... Why do we care about what's happening in Spain and Portugal? Till we go on holiday there, then we do worry about it, don't we? But I'm not going for a few weeks, so I don't give a damn. I'm only joking. Is it about net zero? Maybe. Anyway, lots on that. 0344 499 1000. Text as ever, 87222. Start your message with the word talk. And mate Ryan's day. He's not a happy bunny today. He's been trying to come up with something to ask you. Yesterday was fantastic. The Iranian sex toy smuggler dominated the airwaves and resulted in thousands of you getting involved in the show. I've given him one story today, which is that corned beef and spam are back on the menu for VE Day. I want him to come up with something creative about spam and corned beef. Not about sex toys. That was yesterday. He's made that suggestion. I've knocked that on the head. Voicemail him. Is it voice notes called, isn't it? Yeah. Go on your WhatsApp thingamajig, 0344 499 1000. Start your voice note with, "We love Ryan." Nobody's going to do it, are they? You won't get one. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. So let's get to it. Tony Blair, do you remember him? The man who flooded the United Kingdom with migrants, the man who set up the Equalities Act, the man who changed the world forever in our eyes. He's turned on Starmer's net zero policies. Now, forgive me, because I obviously know nothing. Was he not a net zero freak like the rest of them? Tony Blair, right, has attacked Starmer's net zero plans and calls for a radical reset of the government's green agenda. The former PM said it was wrong that people were being asked to make financial sacrifices and changes in lifestyle when they know that their impact on global emissions is minimal. Ladies and gentlemen, we need a drum roll. Tony Blair's talking complete sense. Well, he didn't when he was in power. What's going on with that? See, absolutely right. Talking about that blackout in Spain and Portugal, on a serious note, they are saying that a reliance on net zero energy left Spain and Portugal vulnerable to the mass blackouts engulfing the region. That's what experts are saying. You know, this whole net zero thing? Yeah, listen, everybody talks about net zero the whole time. I think it's really important that we protect the environment. Yeah, whatever. I don't want to upset the friends of the earth. I understand all that. And they say to me things like, if we don't save our planet, there'll be nothing for our kids. I would only say this, and I think most people would agree, if you don't ring me, if you do ring me, 0344 499 1000. It's just about priorities again, and we talk about this every day on this show. I'm sure we all want a cleaner environment and the trees to stay and all that stuff, right? But if you go back and you look at where we're at as a country, if you consider the sacrifices, actually, as Blair said, that people are being asked to make, if you think about the people that are being let down by this government, if you think about how energy was supposed to be cheaper and is more expensive, and it's going to get even more expensive, and we're going to run out, and then we're going to have to import it from somebody else and pay even more, I think by the next election, here, our neck on the line, I think immigration will be a major part of the next electoral debate. But I think energy will be at the forefront of it as well, because I think people will become increasingly aware that we have the most expensive goddamn energy in the Western world, and that is because all these ego zealots are like, we've got to be carbon neutral by 2050. And one, we're not going to be. B, because there isn't an appetite for it. I don't care what anybody tells me. B, and two, right, even if we do get there, as Mike said the other day on breakfast, you know what he said? He said, let's imagine we get there by 2050, then what? What happens then? What are we going to medal or something? What happens? Is that it then? We just go back to what we were doing? And also, The rest of the world isn't taking it seriously. Only the good old United Kingdom, the country that's skint and lets people in to skint it even more. We are, what, 1% of global emissions, and we're still pretending we are the world leaders. Whilst we're talking about my favourite subject, net zero, let's go to my other favourite subject. 10,000 migrants have crossed the Channel this year. Yesterday, Sir Keir Starmer said, after the local elections, I'm going to release my way to deal with immigration. Great. Not before, afterwards. Yeah, all right, good. Probably just to impress people who were thinking of voting for somebody else. No plan. We had Rwanda, wasn't particularly good by the Tories. We're going to crush the gangs. That hasn't worked. Interesting. Donald Trump as well today, celebrating 100 days. Love him or loathe him, the orange man, babe, is made quite a wave, hasn't he? Deportations. I think this is massively relevant when you consider the migrant problem in Britain. Somebody said to me the other day, this is true. In 3 months, last year, January, February, March, over 383,000 people got in on the southern border into the United States of America. January, February, March this year, under Donald Trump, 8,000. Would you not give your right arm right now for somebody with a pair as big as Donald Trump to say, I can sort this stuff out? And the big news story could be that Meghan's still using her royal title. But spam and corned beef back on the menu for VE Day. Foods associated with rationing during the Second World War are seeing a resurgence in time for the 80th anniversary of VE Day. I want to know what food stuff you... This is me, Ryan. See, you didn't come up with this. You thought I was going to say, what food stuff have you used in the bedroom? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be that low. I'm going to do something else. What would you bring back? You know, everything's like, it evolves. Music comes back and all that. What food stuff should we bring? Do you remember a Texan bar? You don't remember a Texan bar, do you? See, look at them all, they're 25. What food stuff do we miss, people? Older people like me. Corned beef ash? A little spam fritter. You've never had a spam fritter, Jodie, have you? Spam to you is what goes in your email, outbox, isn't it? That's the world I'm living in. This lot, like, oh, spam, that's bin, in it? No, spam's like cheap meat with batter on. It's revolting, horrible. You get down the chippy. It was about 12 pence for 4. Terrible. What food stuff should we bring back? Oh, hold on. What do you prefer, spam or corned beef, says Simon Dinage? Neither. Angie says, I love Ryan, but I love Jez more. Christina says, really? Lee Anderson was right, and now we have the answer. When we meet net zero, the lights go out and the internet. Christina, absolutely. Christina's quite busy. Favourite foodstuffs that we should bring back? 87222. Start your message with the word talk. And the prize today is a tin of spam. There we are. We'll throw a tin of spam your way for the best answer. Don't make it associated with sex toys, because that will upset Ryan. I mean, if you want to, that would be fantastic. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. We start with a man who, well, we've gone from the sorts of foods to a man who's now working in a fast food restaurant, the Little Chef on the M63. He pretends he's abroad writing his book. Look at him, covered in makeup. Nigel Evans, good afternoon, former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons. How are you?
I'm great, and welcome to Spain. We couldn't have done this interview yesterday.
Well, I was going to say, you are in Spain writing your autobiography. Now, you've either got a suntan or the lights are out, because you look very healthy.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, it is sunny, we had real problems yesterday. About 11 o'clock, everything went out, and it didn't come on again for about 14 hours. It's a huge wake-up call, Jeremy, to be honest. It must have cost the Spanish economy billions.
Yep.
And I suspect also it may have cost people their lives in Spain. There's got to be a statistic that will come out over the next few days. But everything ground to an absolute halt here. I'm in a very, very small part just outside of Torrevieja.
That's the way he said that, with a slight Spanish. That is very Torrevieja.
Well, I did what all good Brits around this community did. I went up the bar. We went to the pub. And fortunately, they were still able to pull a few pints because they were gas propelled.
So let me get this right, Evans. You once held one of the highest jobs in the country, Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons. You now sat in a Spanish bar on a Monday afternoon getting bladdered when you're supposed to be being paid a fortune to write a book. If you're not doing that, you're sunbathing. On a serious note, people over here say that it was the reliance on net zero energy that caused Spain and Portugal to be blacked out so badly. Is that true?
Yeah, apparently they were boasting just a few days ago that all of their energy on one day came from renewables, and well done them. But quite frankly, if there has been a problem because of the oscillation, I think they're calling it, or the flood of energy coming into the grid, which basically broke it.
Yep.
And it broke Spain, Portugal, bits of France. The same thing could happen.
Well, I don't know if you know this because you're away, but Britain's electricity grid operator has just announced that they are investigating mystery outages in the UK system just hours before Spain and Portugal were plunged into blackouts. The control room staff at the National Energy System Operator, NESCO, noticed suspicious activity on Sunday evening. Without being conspiratorial, that leads me to ask you a question. Was this a hatchet job by somebody, or is it just a system that needs changing and is too reliant on that net zero madness we talk about every day on this station?
Well, they're going to have an inquiry in Spain and Portugal, that's for certain, and we just need to find out exactly what did happen. If it happened in Spain, then it could happen in Britain. And if you think about what happened when just one energy station caught fire near Heathrow and it ground all flights for a day, can you imagine what would happen in the United Kingdom if something similar happened? I don't think we're prepared for it.
Well, actually, you should get back down to that bar and have a drink, because I never thought I'd read this out. Sir Tony Blair has today attacked quite vehemently Keir Starmer's net zero plans and called for a radical reset of the government's green agenda. Old Tone said it was wrong that people were being asked to make financial sacrifices and changes in their lifestyle when they know that their impact on global emissions is minimal. I'd say that's a pretty important intervention from a man who I thought was right up the old net zero tree, wasn't he?
Well, I never thought I'd say this either, but 3 cheers for Tony Blair.
I never thought I'd say either. Jeez.
You're speaking common sense.
Yeah.
And all these false targets. You said earlier on that United Kingdom contributes just 1% of all the problems that are existing because of energy production. I've just got 3 things to say. China, India, United States of America.
Absolutely.
Those 3 countries, this is where they are not going to these targets like the United Kingdom are. You're quite right. If we hit the target, what then? I mean, it's going to mean with the sort of power stations that China are turning on a weekly basis, the sort we are doing. And there was an interview just the other day, which I saw with Ed Miliband, when he was being asked about the taxation of energy, and he was trying to say that the taxation had nothing to do with the final cost we're paying, because it was set internationally. I've never heard anything so bonkers.
I saw this. I know.
My life.
Done
Bring
like
back Tony.
Well, Tony Blair talking sense, which will make us all realise that the world's gone nuts. Have we lost him? Is there an outage, or have we still got used to? Why has it got Kevin O'Sullivan written on the screen? Can you not get your act together? Now it says Jeremy Kyle. There's technical problems. I will carry on, but I love to tell the audience that we're having a mare. 0344 499 1000. Is Nigel still? Oh, there you are, Nigel. Apparently I've turned into Kevin O'Sullivan. Listen, so another thing that came up yesterday, which I think is also...
I'm here.
Good. Also very relevant. Last week when we talked, I think the Chancellor, Rachel Thieves, had been warned by the IMF that she's got no room to wiggle, that it was going to have to be in taxation rises or public spending cuts again, because she's really messed it up already in 10 short months. Interestingly, overnight, nurses, teachers and now council staff have issued strike threats. This started yesterday, it's happened overnight, saying Rachel Reeves, right, needs to give us more money. The Tories have jumped up and down and gone, you're soft on the unions, which we all know to be the truth.
Is there a slight delay on me?
Is there a slight... have we lost him? Oh, my God, I am having one of them afternoons. Ryan, just try again, don't worry. We'll try again in a minute, Nigel, don't worry. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. There seem to be a few technical problems this afternoon. Lose him off the screen, we'll get to it, don't worry. I just made a joke and said... We always seem to have technical problems on drive time. Have you noticed that? I made a joke and said, right... Real meat again. Corned beef and spam back in fashion for VE Day. So I threw out to the lovely, lovely, lovely viewers and listeners, what food stuff should we bring back? And you lot have gone nuts. Thank you for that. 87222. Jackie, liver and onions, steak and cow heel pie, and the Texan bar. None of this lot in this studio know what the hell we're talking about. Jeremy, you can buy spam fritties in Iceland. I have some in the freezer, says Anthony in Essex. Awful. The Aztec bar and sugar puffs. Jeez, that's true, sugar puffs. Do they still not do sugar puffs? Dave says, what happened to Arctic roll or Arctic roll? Arctic roll's amazing. Neil says, when was the last time you bought spam, Jezza? It's more expensive than steak now, that's true. Bring back micro noodles. Ryan, I wish I could have a camera on Ryan because he cares so much about this. He gets so wound up when it's not 100% perfect, which is every day with me. Back to Nigel Evans, somewhere in Spain, apparently all writing his autobiography, but in truth getting drunk. How are you?
It's good to be back. Yeah, there wasn't another power outage, don't worry.
Good man.
It was me saying 3 cheers for Tony Blair probably screwed the system.
I think it probably did. So Rachel Reeves is in a pickle, and I'm hardly surprised. You and I have been around long enough to know that every time there's a Labour government, all the unions in the end demands 30%, and the government either prints money or screws us all with taxation, and either way, the country will be bankrupted. Well, we're bankrupted already, so they've got little or no room for manoeuvre, Nigel Evans, have they?
Yeah, I think pickles are the only thing she hasn't put an extra tax on. Yeah, she's in real problems. And of course, the first thing that they did was to give huge pay rises to the public sector.
Yep.
And that was costing billions, totally unfunded. And now, of course, they're coming back for more. Surprise, surprise. So not only are we running up debts right, left and centre, she said that she wouldn't need any extra taxation. Well, we'll see where that goes. But at the same time, we could be heading for a summer of discontent because the same strikes that we had before the general election could well be back on the cards. So it's going to be an absolute disaster. And the very people who are the wealth creators, the small businesses, are the ones that she's put extra taxation on. And so we've got 13,000 millionaires and more who fled the United Kingdom. They fled with their taxes because they otherwise would have been in the UK paying taxes. So she's got that black hole to fill as well.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's Tuesday afternoon. It's hot and lovely across the whole of the United Kingdom. I'm sitting in an air-conditioned studio with a slightly dodgy technological problem, thinking to myself, every single day there is something. Today, Tony Blair attacks the green agenda, the net zero madness that engulfs this government. You know, we're skint and still they want to spend billions and skint us even more. We've got 10,000 migrants coming across the channel because there's absolutely no plan whatsoever. Our Chancellor is that inept that in 10 short months she's bankrupted us still further, gives her union mates who are now threatening to go on strike if they don't get more money, and we can't afford it. And if you tune in, right, and if you lived here all your life, Nigel, you'd look at that, or you'd listen to this and you'd go, and I have this conversation with loads of people, where does it all end, pal? Where does it all end?
Yeah, and you mentioned the figure of 10,000 that have entered the United Kingdom illegally, and that's just the figure that we know. They've just come on boats. There'll be others that have got in some way, shape, form or another. Over the period of the next 5 years of the Labour government, that will be the city the size of Cambridge. We just simply can't afford it. It's already costing us over £8 billion a year to house the illegal immigrants that have already come. So you're going to multiply that again. So there's another black hole that the Labour Party are creating. And it's great for Yvette Cooper to hit the airwaves today to say that anybody who has come in illegally who then commits a sexual offence will not be able to claim asylum. I mean, they shouldn't be able to claim asylum anyway.
And you know, I'm so glad you said that, because that to me was the typical Labour soundbite today. Sex offenders will be denied asylum rights under a new law. Yes, absolutely, but that's too bloody obvious. Why are they not brave enough to say any asylum seeker who is a criminal who doesn't have a right will not be given rights and will be removed from this country in an instant? Because if they had the cojones to say that, people would go, they're serious about this matter. That's the whole point, isn't it?
I don't care what the crime is. If you've committed a crime and you've come in from abroad, you're not going to claim asylum. Simple as that.
No.
And quite frankly, anybody who comes in on a boat should be told you're not going to be able to claim asylum.
Listen, I did an interview with the ex-Prime Minister.
Stop these people coming in. It's dangerous. People are dying doing it, and it's costing us a ton of money. Let's get real about it and just say anybody who comes in on a boat will simply not be able to claim asylum in the United Kingdom.
I completely agree. I did an interview with the ex-Prime Minister of Australia who brought this in, Tony Abbott, of course, who brought this in and was quite strong. And I remember the world recoiling when Australia went, no, really sorry, but we're turning the boat round. There's 900 of you because actually, in terms of education and medicine and everything else, we're skint, so we're not going to do this. And the world went, whoa! And then they held I think they held a referendum or something, and 99% of the Australian public went, might be harsh, but it was definitely true. And then the next government, Albanese, that's Labour, kept the policy going. I don't think that our politicians can be listening. And I might be wide of the mark, but I will sit here every day, Nigel, until they drag me out the studio and say, until politicians of all parties understand that the British people are fed up with what immigration is doing to their livelihoods, and until the people who make decisions get their heads out of their backsides and say, listen, we're not the leader of the free world anymore, we're not the main, we can be, decent and all that. But decency should start at home, and care should start at home, and consideration of people and their livelihoods, should start at home, because we cannot afford to wipe the backside of the rest of the world. I really feel that.
Well, if they want to hear the discontent from the British people, then they won't have to wait long, because, of course, we've got some polls people will be voting in on Thursday, and let's just listen very carefully to what the British people are saying. I know the government have stopped a number of polls in parts of the country where there's local government reform, and I think that was a huge mistake, denying people a vote. But nonetheless, there's still significant parts of the country that will be voting, and there's one by-election as well. Let's just see what the people are saying. And I look forward to coming back on the air with you, Jeremy, and analysing what it is and why it is that the people have said what they've said. There's a clip on Guido Fawkes of the door being shut in Hilary Benn's face in one of these areas, where the person behind the door just said, "I can't stand the man."
Honestly, I think that there comes a point, probably in all societies, in all cycles of whatever you want to call it, political cycles, that the people suddenly find their voice. And I think the British people have been, in their own way, kicked so much recently that I think they're ready to say, we're not prepared to do this. Now, to finish on a slightly lighter note, as I did get you a job in a Little Chef after your political career went down the toilet. Big news today. Foods associated with rationing during the Second World War are seeing a resurgence in time for the 80th anniversary of VE Day. Corned beef and spam are seemingly back on the menu for more Britons, with supermarkets reporting a significant increase in sales of corned beef and spam. Obviously not an M&S, because there's no food, because there's been a glitch or something. But Nigel Evans, this got me thinking, because how old are you? 50?
I'm 67.
Good man, you old git. Foods we should bring back: Stephen Stoke, cheese and pineapple chunks, a Vesta beef curry, and strawberry angel delight for afters whilst Demis Roussos is singing in a dress. I mean, that's quite a memory. What foodstuffs do you remember the Texan bar, Nigel Evans?
I do. Well, I had a retail convenience store in Swansea, which my grandfather started in the 1930s. So I remember a number of items that we used to sell that they no longer produce. And one of them was Spangles. Yes. The other one was Tiffin Bar and the Old Jamaica. Do you remember the chocolate bar, Old Jamaica?
Yes, Tiffin Bar. Oh, my God. What about a sherbet dib-dab? You used to put stick your thing in the... Honestly, the world... This lot, through the glass, right, watch my face like that. They've got no idea. Mate, they thought spam was what they get in their email outbox. Lovely. Cadbury Smash still never worked out how a chocolate maker made powder mashed potato, says Den Margaret. You can still get... Do you remember Arctic Roll, Nige?
Oh, yeah.
That's basically ice cream with Swiss roll around the outside. That's absolutely brilliant. Whilst I'm doing this, we've got... Oh, yeah, look, we're doing VE. That's brilliant. Crystal says, this may be more American, but the Sloppy Joe needs to have a comeback. Do you know what a Sloppy Joe is?
No, we never sell Sloppy Joe.
I don't know what that means. Tripe and onions in white. Tripe and onions? Oh, dear, Mike and Erith, I don't like the idea of that. Nige, thank you. I think we should rejoice today. I think we should rejoice at the fact that for the first time ever in political times, Nigel Evans and Jeremy Carter saying 3 cheers to Tony Blair. When Tony Blair thinks that your net zero madness is crazy, then you know you're in trouble, don't you? Good man.
I hope he's watching.
Nigel, thank you very much indeed. Good man. Former Deputy Speaker of the House of Commons and Conservative MP for the Ribble Valley, 425. We've had a few glitches, but we'll get there, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to be on, 0344, it's on the screen, 499 1000, my telephone number, text to 87222. On the day they've announced that corned beef and spam are making a comeback as we head towards 80th VE Day celebrations, what foodstuff would you old gits like me want to bring back? We've already had Arctic Roll, Angel Delight, Vespa beef curries, but my favourite so far is the Texan bar. 0344 499 1000, back in 3.
Well, we are allowing it to happen, and it's not just Datchet. I mean, there are so many towns up and down the country.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
About 4:29, right? Glitches or not, we're on till 7. JK on Drive on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Loads of serious stuff. Most exciting is that Tony Blair, you remember him? He's attacked Starmer today and went, "You're barking mad with net zero. The British people can't afford it." Hurrah for Tony Blair! Did I ever think I'd say hurrah for Tony Blair? The man who took us into an illegal war? The man who told blatant lies? Blair slams net zero as long as you get an ID card, says Simon Dinnins. You could be absolutely right there, yeah. He's probably playing to a certain audience. Jeremy, the internet is playing up and making you sound stupid. And you keep praising Tony Blair. My afternoon's crap. Well, it's not my fault. It always happens on this show. I do apologise. Bring back Tiger's Nuts. What? Oh, Tiger Nuts. Sorry, Tiger Nuts. Ryan, do you remember Tiger Nuts? He doesn't at all. He's pretending. Big thick nuts. Jodie, D in Derbyshire wants big thick nuts from Tiger's Big Thick Nuts brought back. This is foodstuffs that you'd like to bring back. They're bringing back corned beef and spam for V-Day 80th year celebrations. And we thought it would just be a good idea to ask you what food you'd like to bring back. 87 oh God, it's all going on. Rich, fab show, really. Tiffin and Cadbury Mint Golden Crisp for me. Blair attacking Millipede, the first open shots of a long war. Blairites hate Millipede and he only got the job to make sure he didn't run with a lunatic left behind him for leader. Love from Betty, who comes under the name of Rich. I've no idea. I get completely confused sometimes about this show. No, I know it sounds it. To the phone lines, Hertfordshire. Andrew, a very good afternoon. Welcome to a slightly glitched Talk TV Drive. How are you?
Yeah, still classy. There was a thing called junket we used to eat. It was foul.
Junket? What was junket, pal?
It was sort of made from sort of spent milk, and you put nutmeg on it, and it was sort of a pink colour. It was foul.
Jodie, imagine raw milk with nutmeg on it, congealed. Jeez.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And I tell you
tapioca. Tapioca at school. Do you remember tapioca, which was the poor man's rice pudding, looked like frog spawn? Do you remember that?
Yeah,
awful.
Yeah, I used to throw that up with great velocity and volume.
Good man. Well done. Good. How old are you?
I am a very, very young 35.
The thing I have here in this studio is that actually next door are 4 people whose combined ages are almost just me. And when I say things like a Texan bar and spam, they look at me like I've literally landed from Mars. So I appreciate all 11 of you, my age, who are ringing the show. Andrew, what do you want to talk about, pal?
So the retrospect, the thing in relation to Yvette Cooper this morning, the most useless person on planet Earth after Lammy and Millipede.
Can you call her Mrs. Balls, because it annoys her and it makes me laugh?
Yeah, that's right, Mrs. Balls. So she's actually announcing nothing. So the reality of it is, it was either an oil thing or Gatwick Airport, and they gave them permission, and the judge said, right, what we're going to do is they'll have to, this law that's going to apply to it, it will be retrospective, so they'll have to go through the green agenda again.
Yep.
Any illegal immigrant that's here now that's convicted of a sex offence must be deported. So this law should be retrospective. And the reason that works is if you look in America, all those mad criminals that are out there that have seen people being shipped to El Salvador, they've hopped across the border to see their friends in Mexico. The exodus of the sex offenders that are here would be dramatic because they wouldn't want to go back.
I look at it, I agree with that. I look at it in a slightly different way, which is, wouldn't you love a government that had the cojones to say, actually, anybody who's committed a crime or anybody who doesn't have the right paperwork or anybody who's come in illegally will also be immediately deported and won't have asylum rights. Of course, sex offenders shouldn't be here, but there's hundreds of thousands of other people who shouldn't be in this country, and we do not have the leadership to say, we're getting rid of these people. You can shove your whatever approach to being the belief that, you know, Britain should do the right thing. We did the right thing with Ukraine. We'll continue to do the right thing. But we cannot, at this moment in time, afford, as I keep saying, to wipe the backside of the rest of the world when our own people are struggling. That makes sense, doesn't it?
It does make sense. But if you look at that El Salvador, when they pushed them back there, they took them in. They knelt them down, handcuffed, shaved their heads, threw them in a cell. So when they arrive on the beaches, single males, we should just do the same, whiz them across to France and throw them on the beach.
Mate, I couldn't... Listen, there's people who will listen to this and go, that's outrageous. Well, those people need to understand that if you're a pensioner or a waspy woman or a homeless veteran or a farmer, this country is creaking at the seams and it cannot afford to pay for people who are coming to this country because we are the softest in the world, we give the most in the world, and we don't get anything in return. Listen, good to have you on, Andrew in Hertfordshire. Thank you very much indeed. So I did throw out, OK, that spam and corned beef was being brought back for the VE Day 80th celebrations. What foodstuffs did you bring back? This is brilliant. My mum used to buy tripe and cow's udders. Look through the glass, look at cow's udders. She loved it. Lots of vinegar on it. I think it's probably a good thing, says Ruth, that stuff has gone away. Pete in Croydon. Ryan, tell me you remember pretend cigarettes. We used to smoke them. Do you remember pretend cigarettes with the red thing on the end? That's brilliant. Also, lemon and chocolate bonbons. I broke a tooth once there. Humble pie for Miliband and Labour. Net zero policy not working, says Danny. Leak in Staffordshire. Does that mean he's got a leak in Staffordshire? He lives... I don't know. Garfield is in Derbyshire. Garfield, how are you, sir?
Oh.
Ooh.
Hi, Jeremy. Nice to speak to you.
Hello, Garfield. Nice to speak to you. You all right?
Listen, with me being called Garfield, I miss Kitty Cat, really, but I think you can still get it online. But what I miss is large sandwiches with the brown stuff on, the brown jelly on.
What?
And large sandwiches, 2 slices of bread.
Yeah.
Lard.
Lard?
Lard, yeah.
Oh,
it was beautiful. Salt on and the brown jelly.
Right, nobody knows through the glass what this man's talking about. If you cook bacon or something like that, you know the juice, if you put it in the thing, it's white and it's lard, it's like grease. In the old days, they used to put that on bread. Ryan's been sick.
That's the stuff. Beautiful.
Lovely, Garfield. How old are you, Garfield?
I'm 115 and I was brought up on... No, and the other thing they have to bring back is invalid butter toffee, because you wouldn't need a dentist nowadays. If you had a loose tooth, you had a piece of that, it would fetch it out straight away.
Can I just say, for 115, you sound absolutely amazing. Now, get yourself back to bed and keep taking the medication. That's Garfield, 115 in Derbyshire. This is Talk Drive.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is...
From holiday and standing fantastic back at 7. Kev O'Sullivan on Talk Drive. No, not on Drive. He's in the evenings. I'm on Drive. JK till 7. Ahead of that, 0344 499 1000. In a tick, the excellent Ros Clark, columnist at The Sun about net zero. He's author of a great book, Not Zero, a man after our own hearts. But we threw out just a bit of fun because, God, it's a long afternoon. Spam and corned beef to be brought back on the menu for VE Day as our 80th celebratory years approach. What foodstuffs would you bring back? You've gone mad. My dad used to eat lard sandwiches as well, says Paula Baker. Lard sandwiches, dreadful. Neil says, bring back spangles. And I'm not talking about your underwear, Neil. Jez. What? Oh, Neil, yes. There you go. I like this from Bob in Clacton. Clacton? He says, it's interesting, Labour's agenda, 1.5 new million homes, runway at Gatwick, runway at Heathrow, and everyone owns an EV. I can't see any of it's going to happen, but imagine if it did. A bit like Spain and Portugal, our national grid would be absolutely pulverised. Yes, it would. And energy prices would continue to rise because net zero is the biggest lie ever, in my mind, ever thrown at the British people. That is definitely opinion of our next guest, Ros Clark, columnist from The Sun, of course, and author of Not Zero. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon, Jeremy.
You're looking the part there, and you're very smart, sir. Check shirt and braces, lovely. Good to have you on, sir. Not Zero is great. I actually genuinely have read a bit about it. I wanted to ask you something. Today's quite interesting. Even Tony Blair's turned on Millipede and Starmer today and said, this is madness given the financial sacrifices and changes and challenges to people's lifestyles that you're talking about when you consider how small an impact it will have globally. And Ross, I wanted to start with something that Mike Graham said on Morning Glory the other day. He went, let's play devil's advocate. Let's say it happens and Millipede's right and we get to 2050 and we've achieved our target. What the hell happens next?
What would happen then? Well, if Britain got to the target, the rest of the world probably wouldn't. Well, we would have destroyed our industry. The rest of the world would be profiting at our expense, and we would have sacrificed ourselves for nothing. I mean, that's what the government policy is leading to at the moment. But Tony Blair as quite rightly said, it's doomed to failure. He's effectively said government policy, and, you know, he's a former Labour Prime Minister. He said the current Labour Prime Minister's policy is doomed to failure.
Strong words. And actually,
a moment of realisation for many people, I'm sure.
Well, interesting when you say, Ross, about realisation. Ed Millipede has made no secret, the Energy Secretary, of this is his life's work. We're going to be... you know, all the farmers are going to have their land grabs. We're going to build wind farms. We all know, anybody who knows anything knows that it's a lie, because not only have energy prices and bills gone up, we have the most expensive energy in Western Europe, but we won't be able to make enough damn electricity with these bloody wind farms, and we'll end up importing it. And of course, when you look across the pond at what America drill, baby, drill, it's that question, isn't it? We all care to a degree, I'm sure, about the environment, but we have this richness and this value under our own land, and we refuse to acknowledge it. Do you think, and a really big question for you, do you think Starmer will come to the realisation that this is massively, massively, massively unpopular, jettison it and get rid of Miliband, or is he wedded to this ideologically himself, do you think, Ross?
Well, I think for many years, governments have sort of relied on opinion polls, which just sort of someone stuffs a clipboard in front of someone's nose, said, do you agree with tackling climate change? And of course, everybody says yes, because it's a virtuous thing to say, and we all want care about the environment and so on. But when you reframe the debate, you actually give people genuine consequences of search for net zero, like, do you want to go without foreign holidays? Do you want higher electricity prices? Do you want to go without meat and so on? Well, people give very, very different answers. They don't want to sacrifice their lifestyles to achieve this arbitrary target. And this is the trouble, which Keir Starmer's going to find, the whole government's going to find, is they think that the public is very much on side with net zero, but when it comes to the practicalities, it is a very, very different story.
And that's the point. When you hang your hat on something as huge as this net zero policy, to anybody, and you know far more than me, but to anybody with a brain cell, you look at it and you go, it is not universally popular. It's another example of Great Britain, certainly in my opinion, trying to do the right thing and not understanding that we are not in a position that we were before. And you talked about, you know, people, the financial toll. The British people have been battered, be it COVID, the pandemic, the cost of living. There's all sorts of stuff. You know, if you go to a supermarket now, certainly not M&S because there's nothing on their shelves, but if you go to a supermarket, the cost is astronomical compared to what it was. And yet still, these idiots believe that this is a good idea. And to me, it's very... It's just incredibly short-sighted, and I cannot see a point at which the Labour Party in some way or other is going to have to row back on this, because it doesn't add up financially, it doesn't add up in terms of what the British public want, and the end result is it will simply further bankrupt this country, won't it?
Well, every net zero target that we've had so far has had to be sort of relaxed, whether it's been ban on oil and gas boilers, whether it's been ban on petrol and diesel cars and so on. They've all had to be pushed back because, you know, the way this policy seems to work is that sort of government thinks, well, we've set a target and then all the technology that we will require to get to that target will magically come into existence. Not only that, but it will also, even more magically, it'll be cheaper than the technology we use at the moment. And of course, that's stuff and nonsense, really. Miliband keeps this mantra up that electricity prices are so high in this country because we're so reliant on gas. But what he doesn't explain is why are electricity prices in the US about a quarter of what they are here, and the US uses a higher proportion of gas-generated electricity than does Britain. So there's something wrong with Ed Miliband's mind analysis there, isn't there?
What is the LGA, by the way? You'd know more. They today have said that they should... Local Government Association wants to put solar panels on all new homes to cut bills and carbon. It's not going to cut bills, is it? It's ideology, Ross, isn't it? It's ideology.
I'm not actually against putting solar panels on new houses. I mean, that's where they should be, rather than in fields, rather than taking up good quality agricultural land. I mean, if you put some solar panels on your roof, they will reduce your bill because you'll be using the power from the panels rather than the grid. But I mean, I'll tell you, I'll come clean. I've got them on my roof, and they work very well for me. But the reason they work so very well for me is because I get paid over 60 pence per kilowatt hour for every unit I generate. That's a very generous feed-in tariff that the government offered up to a dozen years ago, whereas I buy electricity in at sort of 30 pence per kilowatt hour. So
you're making money out of it. It's complete hypocrisy, Ross. You're a complete hypocrite, man.
It works. So I think people will do things which work for them financially.
Well, I bought a house and built an extension, and I've taken down the solar panels because I think they look crap. I think that this government genuinely is going to reach a point where it realises and gets its head out of the clouds and understands that the British people, yes, of course, we all care about certain things. But right now, and I keep saying it again and again and again, there are more pressing problems, aren't there? Can I ask you very quickly before you go about the unexpected power outages overnight and yesterday in Spain and Portugal? Many people in the media saying that a reliance on that net zero energy and that as an approach has caused this. What's your thoughts on that, Ross?
Yeah, well, that's the way it seems to be going. That you know, the idea of a cyber attack, that's now been ruled out. Spain and Portugal both are more reliant on wind and solar than we are in Britain. They generate about 50% of their electricity last year from wind and solar. Now, the trouble with wind and solar, apart from the expense, of course, is that it makes the grid far more vulnerable to short-term disturbances. There's always a tricky business, a very complex operation to balance supply and demand in an electricity market. But if you've got gas, you've got coal, you've got nuclear, you're only really having to worry about the demand side, the variations in demand, because you can control the supply. But you've got a lot of wind and solar. You can't control the supply either, because the wind's not always blowing and the sun's not always shining. And there's also a problem with inertia. At the moment, if you have a lot of gas turbines in the system, it keeps the system running, irons out the sort of minor perturbations in demand, if you like.
Yeah.
If you have a lot of wind and solar, on the other hand, you don't have that facility, and it makes the system far more vulnerable.
Couldn't agree more. Great read, by the way, Not Zero. Thank you for joining us. The excellent Ross Clark, columnist from The Sun, of course. Net Zero, Tony Blair's turned on Blair and Millipede and said it's a waste of money, the British people can't afford it. Hurrah for Tony Blair! I never thought I'd say this. This is Talk Drive.
Well, the tariffs coming down is going to get U.S. products, particularly agricultural products, into other countries that have been keeping us out. And you are seeing, billions and hundreds of billions of dollars of manufacturing being announced, expanded manufacturing in the U.S., companies coming back to the U.S. And we just saw that Apple is going to move their manufacturing from China to India to avoid the tariffs.
Yeah.
So,
how's that working out for American workers? So they're going to get they're not going to get a job whether it's in India or China, are they?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
It's to 5 Drive on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. 0344 419 1000. It's the day of Net Zero. It's the day that Tony Blair said to Ed Millipede and Sir Keir Starmer, "It's barking," he said. "It's wrong that people are being asked to make financial sacrifices and changes in lifestyle when they know the impact on global emissions is minimal." Tony Blair starts the Labour infighting. Less than 10 months in, the ex-Prime Minister aiming for Starmer's jugular and saying, You know, you based your entire policies on net zero. Doesn't make any financial sense. It's like Tony Blair's been listening to talk. Can you believe it? 0344 499 1000. Like Terry in Slough says, we've got a government of rare intelligence. Frankly, it's rare they bloody well show any. The other big news story of the today, well, it's not big, but it's a daily now. The number of people who have crossed the English Channel in small boats in 2025 has exceeded 10,000. That's an increase of 40%. Did you hear that? It's an increase of 40% on last year. I'm not sticking up for the Tories. I wasn't a massive fan of Rwanda, but all we've had from this lot is we're going to smash the gangs. We've no idea how that's going to happen, because it hasn't. A very good afternoon to the man who should be sorting out the migrant crisis if I was in charge. There he is, smart as carrots. Henry Bolton, good afternoon.
Afternoon. Hi.
We're going to start slightly differently, and I'm going to prove you're a broadcaster. For VE Day, for the 80th anniversary, they're bringing back, are you ready? Certain foods associated with rationing. They are bringing back corned beef. They are bringing back spam. It's led me, HB, to be asking things that you'd want to bring back. One woman, Joan Cunningham, says, pig's trotters, I used to have them for breakfast. I said a Texan bar and Arctic roll. What about you? You're our age, Henry. Come on. What needs bringing back to good old Blighty?
I'm going to go back before that, Jeremy.
Right.
I'm going to go back and McConchy pie.
McConchy pie? What's
McConchy pie was part of the rationing that my grandfather and my great uncle were. It was a staple diet for them in World War One, and I never got the chance to taste it.
What's in a conchy pie?
McConchy pie. I've no idea.
Right, I need to know from somebody. McConchy pie? Is it Scottish?
I guess so.
Right, does anybody know what's in a McConchy pie? There you are. That was served in the First World War. Good question, HB. Can I ask you a genuinely serious question? Are you shocked that migrant crossings are 40% up on last year?
No.
No. Neither am I.
Simple answer, no, not at all. I mean, look, we've got this government is just applying one badly thought through knee-jerk response to what they think is bad headlines. Well, they are bad headlines after another. And I mean, you know, what happened to Martin Hewitt from the Border Security Command? Where's he? We haven't heard anything of him.
No.
There's sort of £100 million or whatever, and you know, these specialist officers who are going to be going after sort of the gangs and so on. It's just not happening, and it's quite clearly not having an impact. The weather is really good at the moment down here. I'm down on the south coast. It's really good. But if our border security depends upon bad weather, then I'm sorry, but that's not good enough.
I'm so glad you said that, because I get really hacked off when all I hear is, well, it's sunny, so lots more are going to come. Stop them coming, turn the boats round, send them back to France. No, it's not war-torn. No, there's a tent in France, not a 4-star hotel. I don't get it, HB. I don't get it.
When they arrive on our shores, Jeremy,
they
need to be detained. I mean, they're talking about not giving people asylum who've got now, you know,
sex offenders.
Sex offenders.
So everybody else is all right then. We're just saying sex offenders can't get us. I don't think anybody should get them.
It's bizarre, and we don't know who is and who isn't. We can't identify half of these people. We rely on what they tell us, not what documentation they've got. And so, what we should be doing, they all pose a potential danger to public safety. And what we should be doing is we should be detaining those that we can't send straight back, return immediately. We need to detain them securely until such time as we can deport them, we can remove them, or such time as they ask to go back.
Can I ask you a really naive question? If we are in charge of our own destiny and we're an island and we're a sovereign nation, why do I have to you've just said for some we can't send them back. Why not? If we don't fancy it, go. Why can't we make that decision as a sovereign nation? Why are we tied up with BS sanctions from organisations we don't want anything to do with? I don't get it.
It's people like the Afghans and so on. We've got virtually no logistical way of getting them back.
Well, they logistically got here.
Well, what we've got to do is stop that flow.
Yeah.
And to stop that flow, if everybody in that chain who's heading for the North French coast at the moment, across Europe and beyond probably, and their intention is to reach the North French coast to get on a dinghy and to come across the channel, if they all got that message from their mates that actually you set one foot on British soil and you are detained. No ifs, no buts, no benefits, no mobile phones, no pizzas, no nothing. You're in a secure detention facility, and you know, ideally in a very, very remote location. I'm going to be talking more about that in a couple of months. But just simply, you don't effectively you don't get into Britain. You're in a secure facility, and that is it. And then these people will stop coming. But to do that, we've talked about this before, haven't we, Jeremy? To do that, we've got to remove ourselves, untangle ourselves from the ECHR. We've got to repeal the Human Rights Act and replace it with something else. And I think we've got to pull out of the United Nations Convention on Refugees, because all this thing about sex offenders not being allowed in, that demonstrates to the country that actually the government, this is about government policy. The government thinks it can switch on and switch off policy. I actually think it's wrong. I don't think they can do that, is what I mean, because they have allowed, successive governments have allowed the courts to establish the president of allowing these people in for family unification, for whatever it might be, spurious.
Because we're soft.
We're extremely soft. So that's what we've got to do. We've got to get tough. We've got to show some steel. If we don't, these people will continue coming. We will continue paying for these people now to put them in rented accommodation and thereby take up the housing stock. We are making problem after problem after problem for ourselves.
Couldn't agree more. Before I go, you said we're bringing back corned beef and spam for the 80th VE Day celebrations. You said McConaughey stew. McConaughey, is that how you say? There
was McConaughey stew and McConaughey pie, yeah.
Tinned meat and vegetable rations supplied to British soldiers. Whilst not a pie in the traditional sense, it was a staple of the Army's food supply in World War I and became a household name during that conflict. I'm going to get you a tin. HB.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to get you a tin. I've got the news at 5 at McConaughey Pie on the way to Henry Belton. This is Talk Drive. 0344 499 1000 is my telephone number. You can text me 87222. Start your message with the word talk. The news at 5 is next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just gone 5 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Welcome to Talk Drive on the home of free speech and common sense. On the way, the Deputy Leader of Reform UK and the MP for Boston and Skegness, Richard Tice, who I'm going to give a little help to off-air because big announcement today. Forget net zero, right? Forget Tony Blair and the migrants. Forget Trump. The big news of the day is that spam and corned beef are to be brought back on the menu for VE Day for the 80th anniversaries. Spam and corned beef, two sort of foods associated with rationing. So I thought we'd have a bit of fun today. What would you bring back? What food do you remember? Now, Richard Tice has got time to think about this. I said a Texan bar. The kids through the glass went, what's a Texan bar? Then I said spam, and they went, isn't that what happens in your email? That's what I have to deal with on a daily basis. This is great. Stavros from Sunderland. Do we reckon he's from Sunderland and he's called Stavros? I've no idea. Wasn't he on Britain's Got Talent, him and his son? Hello. Jez, do your listeners realise the history of spam? No. It was developed as a quick way to get the energy required to fight a war into American troops during World War II. Also, spam is an acronym, specially processed American meat. See, I didn't know that. You see what you learn on this show. Andy is in Alicante. Better than being here. He says, bring back toast toppers. What? Look like cat's puke, but were delicious. Great, nice. David in South Wales. Tony Blair isn't dull. Really? And I believe he's only said what he said today because he's reading the room regarding the building hatred for Starmer. So Blair is running damage control, to my opinion. It's not brain surgery. Terry in Darwin says, Jesus Christ, am I dreaming, or is common sense developing in Tony Blair and heading towards the Labour Party? Andrew Warrington says, refusing asylum and deporting sex offenders is a good start, but can we deport an ever-growing list of sex offenders with them instead of just allowing them by rapping their knuckles? Couldn't agree more. We say a very good afternoon to a man who is on the media more than I am. Richard Tice, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. I think that's an impossibility, Jeremy.
Tice,
I know exactly what I want to bring back. Wagon wheels.
Now.
Remember wagon wheels?
I still get them. My wife still buys them. And it's changed. They now have... There are ones with jam in the middle.
I don't want jam in the middle. I want the original ones. And I want the original size. They've got smaller if they're still around. I don't see them in the
But
shops.
shrinkflation for you, Tice, isn't it? That's why you need to be elected. Can I ask you a very personal question? Don't look horrified. Stop worrying you and Isabel. Yesterday she wouldn't allow me to talk about the Iranian who was allowed to stay because his sex toy business would have gone bust.
Behave yourself.
I'm being serious. Wagon wheels. Did you have a special way of eating them? So when we were at school, you know, like a Twix bar, we used to nibble the chocolate off and then the toffee and leave the biscuit. With a wagon wheel, I used to eat all the chocolate off so that the marshmallow would be left on top. Were you the same?
Yeah, I mean, exactly that. And some.
This is what I love, you see. Richard Tice, you know, we can talk about politics, but we need to know how Richard Tice, maybe a future Deputy Prime Minister, ate a wagon wheel.
I enjoy my chocolate.
You like chocolate, don't you? Can I ask you a question as an MP for Reform? Is today a rather important day in the history of British politics? Because a man who took us into an illegal war, who was our Prime Minister for years, has today said that the government's crazy net zero strategy is, and I quote, people are being asked to make financial sacrifices and changes in lifestyle when they know full well that their impact on global emissions is minimal. That is Sir Tony Blair having a go at Millipede and Starmer. This is fascinating, Richard.
It is very interesting. Obviously, I'm delighted that Tony Blair is now listening to and agreeing with Reform UK policy, as are an increasing number of people, about the madness of net stupid zero. And let's just remind ourselves, I mean, we've seen huge blackouts across southern Europe, in Spain and Portugal, and it may well be that that's triggered Tony Blair to say what he's just said. But people should be under no illusion, and there's a sort of conspiracy of silence. Oh my God, what's happened? And no one wants to admit the truth, which is that it's net zero that has caused this madness, because guess what? Spain has over 50% exposure almost all the time, sometimes a lot more, to primarily solar power. And you know, this has created a huge instability. There's a lack of what's called inertia in the system that you get if you make electricity from gas or from coal. You get that constant inertia, and it's reliable, and it's 100% rock solid guaranteed. But solar power creates weak electricity. Wind power creates what they call thumping electricity, and this stuff all has to be balanced. The system's gone wrong. Guess what? It turns out now, the Telegraph breaking news is just reporting we've also been having problems that our own national energy system operator covered up over the last 48 hours, that we had an outage on, I think it was Sunday night at about...
Yeah,
between
Britain's
2 and 3
electricity
o'clock.
grid operators investigating mystery outages in the UK system, literally hours before the Spain and Portuguese problem. Suspicious activity on Sunday night. Initially, of course, so you're talking net zero. I wonder whether this was a cyber attack.
This is net zero related.
Yep.
And then something also happened at 6 o'clock in Denmark. And what happens, you see, when electricity is created in different places using different forms of generation, it comes out it comes out with a different oscillation, a different power, and it requires, you've got to balance it and level it out so that it works for our system. And what happened in Spain was basically they got a load of electricity from France, but something tripped, and because of the whole system was vulnerable to renewable power, the whole lot tripped all over the country, and they didn't know how to get it back up again.
So explain this to me. You call it net stupid zero. Imagine I'm sort of a punter and you're talking to me. I'm going to ask you this. So this policy of this Labour government is going to increase the cost of my energy bill despite the fact that you told me it was going to lower it, because we won't be able to make enough through wind energy, so we'll have to import it. This policy refuses to acknowledge that we've got oil and gas underneath our lands, that if we drilled we would be financially so much better off, and thus that would impact in a favourable way on our bills. We're at a position in this country where financially we can't even afford the interest on the money that we owe, and yet our government is thinking that it would make sense to spend billions more to bankrupt the country. On top of that, the social services are having a nightmare because actually there is not enough money being invested because it's being wasted elsewhere. And all of this is run by a government that thinks that even if we achieve this, and we apparently are the leaders, because no other country gives a damn, we'll only have achieved 1% or something of the whole global situation. And I put to you what Mike Graham put to somebody the other day. He played devil's advocate. He said, so we get to 2050 and we've reached our target. There's a few people driving electric vehicles and everybody's happy. What next? Do we get a medal? Do we go back to where we were? What's the point? It's not a race because nobody else wants to run in it. This is ideological crap, isn't it?
It is, and we will all have no money in our pockets, no jobs, we'll be living in tents, we'll be impoverished. The business to be in will be candles because we're facing blackouts. It's just a matter of when, not.
What do you say to people who say that's scare tactics, Richard, on a serious note?
We've literally just seen it in Spain and Portugal, the biggest blackouts Europe has ever seen, I think since the Second World War.
Yep.
And everybody's trying to cover up the cause. The cause is net stupid zero. There's ideological lunacy. And let me just remind everybody, this morning at about 8 o'clock, we were importing 21% of our electricity needs from Europe. So just think about the situation. Spain's got a bit of a shortage. It phones up its friends in France saying, we need some electricity. The French say, hang on, I'm just flogging it all to those chaps in the UK. At which point, Spain phones up Ursula von der Leyen and says, we're all members of the EU. Sod the Brits, excuse my French. We want the electricity. So the French then say, sorry lads, in the UK, we're not selling you your electricity, however much you bid. At which point, we run out. We're blackouts. Great. Thanks a lot, Ed Miliband. Thanks a lot, Tories, for imposing this lunacy on us. This is absolutely crazy when we're sitting on decades and decades of wonderful, glorious, golden energy treasure called oil and gas and shale gas. And we should be using it and making ourselves richer whilst we have cheap energy. And this will be the topic of the next general election. It's one of the reasons why Reform UK will win the next general election.
I actually, I know immigration is in the forefront of many people's minds today, 10,000 migrants, but I agree with you. I think that the next election, probably an even bigger topic from migration will be energy, because if you're ideologically trying to tell the British people, I mean, I've listened to them, they say things like, the majority of people want this. No, they don't. Which planet do you live on? We're going to take the land off our farmers who provide our foodstuffs, which means our food will be more expensive. We're going to grab their land by screwing them. Then we're going to build some wind farms which don't make enough winds. Wait a sec. And then we're going to import it. And all the while, as you quite rightly said, for a country that is skint, underneath the ground is stuff that will make us richer. So why doesn't the government go, OK, so it might upset the Friends of the Earth or a few beardy weirdies at Stonehenge, but actually let's say to the people who object to fracking in their area, let's make it a financially attractive operation to you. You can get money off your energy bills. You can get whatever it is. Why doesn't the government realise that net zero is going to destroy this country financially? For what? For a dream that isn't achievable. And even if it was achievable, we don't bloody well achieve anything in doing it.
If you don't understand something, Jeremy, just follow the money. And the vested interests in this lunacy are making absolute fortunes whilst impoverishing the rest of us. But I've just had an idea whilst listening to you. Maybe if we charged all of the illegal migrants, all we need to charge them for is electricity. And because the price of our electricity is going ever higher, very quickly the word will spread, we can't afford Britain's electricity, so we can't afford to go over in the boats.
Honestly, mate, I listen to... I keep saying it every single day. Right, when they showed those Mexican migrants at the border under Trump, and she was crying, this woman, and she went, "There's no point in going because he's not going to give us what we used to get and doesn't want us there." And I just went, and that's genius. Hallelujah. By the way, you did just say, if you don't understand something, Kyle, just follow the money. That is why I have you on, because you are money and you are intelligent, and I obviously understand nothing. Net Stupid Zero is definitely at the forefront. Let's talk politically, though. For Blair to turn on Starmer and Miliband, is he reading the room? Is he causing trouble? Why now? Is it because of the Spain and Portuguese blackouts, do you think?
I'll tell you exactly why. Because when the patron saint of the Labour Party, Tony Blair, speaks, it gives Starmer and his colleagues cover to start to shift on this,
right?
And it will give them cover at some point to fire Ed Miliband.
Has Tony Blair just signed the death warrant of Ed Miliband?
Maybe they're going to stick him in a rocket and fire him to the top of one of those offshore wind turbines, and he can live in a tent up there
with a bacon sandwich.
With his bacon sandwich. No, but seriously, I think that's what could well be going on here.
Right.
And by the next election, you see, if they carry on this course, then that is the end of them. So they will need to adjust. And the two things you've got, as you say, we've got over 10,000 illegals have crossed the channel this year. I think well over 400 today. That number is going to be about 50,000 by the end of this year.
And let's not give the Tories too much credit, but let's make the point. We have to be as balanced as possible. This is 40% up on last year, and the Labour Party and everybody else was up in bloody arms, and they haven't come up with a... today, Mrs. Balls, as I like to call her, this sent me through the roof. Today she said sex offenders will be denied asylum rights in a new law. No, what's it, Sherlock? Well, why don't you try saying the same thing to people about asylum rights who shouldn't be here because they're just criminals or they haven't got the right paperwork or they don't give anything?
They're all criminals. They've all broken the law.
Yeah.
And all convicted criminals from overseas should be removed and returned from where they came. Thank you very much, but you don't break the law in our country. It's as simple as that. So here's the point, though. If it's 50,000 this year, and if you had a couple of thousand people protesting down in Dover over the weekend, peacefully, as I understand, how angry do you think the British people are going to be in December 25? And then if there's another 50,000 in 2026, how angry do you think the British people are going to be at the end of 2026 when there's another 100,000 have come illegally? How many hotels is that? How many houses is that rented by Serco? The whole thing is completely nuts. You know what's going on at the moment? You've got people, you've literally got people renting houses and then on a sort of 1 or 2 year basis, then turning it in a 3-bedroom house, turning it into a house of multiple occupation, and letting it to the council for that same period for 3 times the price. This is just insane. All of this stuff, absolutely tonto mad.
I'm glad you're on. We've just had a statement from Number 10 responding to Sir Tony Blair. We'll get Richard Tice to respond straight away. And Number 10 spokesman has just told reporters, "We will reach net zero in a way that treads lightly on people's lives, not by telling them how to live or behave." Clearly, there's going to be a range of views, but we are of the view that this is an enormous economic opportunity. And as the Prime Minister has made very clear, we're already seeing the benefit. The official highlighted the economic importance in pushing forward towards renewables. Our position remains unchanged, says Number 10. This is about the net zero sector growing 3 times faster than the economy as a whole. We're seizing these opportunities, said the spokesman, to drive growth, lower bills and boost living standards. That was a Number 10 spokesman. This is Richard Tice.
You do realise that 3 times nothing is nothing.
Yeah.
So if the economy is not growing as a whole, if you go 3 times that, you're not growing.
And listen to the first line. A Number 10 spokesman has just said, I saw you put your head in your hands, we will reach net zero in a way, no you won't, that treads lightly on people's lives, not by telling them how to live or behave. The point is, it's not about treading lightly on people's lives. Acknowledges then the fact that Blair's pointed out it's going to be too fun, not by telling them how to live or behave. It's not about behaviour, it's about finances.
Let's just look at their definition of likely. How about talking to the 2,500 steel workers at Port Talbot? How likely was that when they had their jobs sacrificed on the altar of net zero? How likely is it on the 1,100 jobs at Luton's van plant, who've also had their jobs slaughtered on the altar of net zero? There's nothing light about any of this. It is heavy, it is brutal, it is destructive, and it's got to stop. It simply has. So they can bleat on as much as they want with their ridiculous statements. But I'm telling you what, this is for turning, this is for changing. And it may be, I hate to say this, but actually, it's not a matter of if, it's when we get a blackout. And when we get a blackout, more and more people are going to wake up and say, guess what? Nigel and Richard were right. They've been banging on about this for years.
I must say one thing. I'm going to pay you a real. I just want to jump in. I'm going to pay you a real compliment. Actually, I'm going to talk about foresight because I think something you said just then is very, very interesting. Because I'm looking at this spokesman from Number 10 responding to Tony Blair, who, if you're just tuning in, the former Prime Minister today said it was wrong that people were being asked to make financial sacrifices and changes in lifestyle when they know that their impact on global emissions is minimal. Number 10's fired back, saying we will reach net zero in a way that treads lightly on people's eyes. But Richard Tice, you said something. I think people need to hear this again. You said this is probably a smokescreen. This is probably the godfather of the Labour Party adding his 2 pennyworth so that at some point when Starmer and his merry band of weirdos realise that millipede is in fact a danger to all of us, that they can let it go under the auspices of Tony Blair has spoken, blah, 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 and we need to change. I think that's actually probably very true, because not only has he said that, but very quickly Number 10 have responded. And that's actually quite... That makes a story, doesn't it? Does.
It completely does, but this this journey is changing. It cannot go on like this. These 2 things of the increase in prices, and by the way, the gas price at the moment, the international gas price is plummeting, and yet our electricity prices to the consumer are going up. And
would reform drill, baby, drill?
Yeah, drill, baby, drill. Drill Scotland, drill in the north of England.
How would you deal with people who don't agree with it in their local communities, Richard?
Well, the reality is people in the local communities, actually you should be giving them discounts on their bills. And of course, you can have independently supervised and regulated test wells to prove that actually shale gas can be conducted safely, as it is in America in thousands of wells. I mean, it's almost 20 million people in America live within a mile of a shale gas well and barely know it's there. You can give discounts. We know the North Sea oil and gas sector is very, it's a huge wealth creator. And I do think there's a link between when we were producing huge amounts of oil and gas in the 80s and 90s in the UK. Guess what? We were growing at 2.5% to 3.5% a year, and everybody was getting richer, and no one was complaining about their energy bills. Maybe there's a link. Maybe it's not a coincidence. Maybe the Labour Party need to wake up, smell the coffee. And the other big change that's going on now is that, we're taking Labour voters who are union members, and even the union leaders privately, I'm hearing, are now saying, hate to say it, folks, but Reform are taking our union members' votes because they're right about net zero. This is a massive, massive political
and I agree with you.
story of the
We go on
decade.
about immigration a lot, but I think energy and net zero is going to be front and centre the next day. Just before you go, let's just return to that big breaking news story today. We've done number 10, we've done Tony Blair, we've done net stupid zero. Foods associated with rationing during the Second World War are seeing a resurgence in time for the 80th anniversary of VE Day. Spam and corned beef are back. As a kid, says Derek in South Wales, watch Tice's face, I used to go to school after having beef dripping salt and pepper on toast. It was lush. Imagine sending your kids to school with fat and lard on toast. Just think of the health workers. They would have a fit. They survived, not very long. I'm still here. Do you think it was it harder in our day or was it funnier? What you know what I mean? Did you have bread and dripping?
I can't remember that. I do remember school tapioca, which was disgusting. I mean, that was not great. And I do remember sort of going to outside toilets at the school I was at. So, it was quite chilly in those days.
Do you know at our school, we had to dive in the swimming pool and break the ice in February outside?
Crikey, that explains a lot, Mr. Kyle.
Oh, here we go. You and your bet. Look at this. Oh, this will get you thinking. Louise says, bring back Woolworths loose pick and mix biscuits. Karamak covered shortcakes. Do you want to hear a great story, Richard? This is absolutely true. Do you remember Woolworths where you could have it was open, nicked a sweet, 7 years of age, my mother holding my hand, nicked, I think it was a Smartie, frog marched me by the ear to the manager to apologise. One bleeding Smartie. Honestly, teaches you a lesson though, that, wouldn't it, eh?
Absolutely right. Yeah, your ear's never been the same again. My mum wouldn't let me go into Woolworths.
Listen, I love you, man. I bet you make a really good point about number 10 and net stupid zero. I'm not so sure about the tie today, but thank you for your involvement as ever. The excellent Richard Tice, Reform Deputy Leader on Talk Drive, 5:25. If you want to be part of the debate, 0344 499 1000. Loads of you getting in touch. What foods would you bring back? Oh my God. Jez says, Baz in Wigan, bring back Hunter's tin jammed roly-poly. It was bleeding amazing. Sadia in Market Harborough, snowballs. Chocolate treat from the 70s like wagon wheels. Absolutely right. I mean, all of that was great. Oh, my God. Annie in Nottinghamshire. Sorry about this rhyme. Afternoon, Jeremy. Delighted to listen to you in the afternoon. Tripe. Yummy Yip as a Lancashire lass from Wigan. We often had tripe for tea. Not cooked, just with a little vinegar and on bread and butter. Also pig's trotters. My mum's friend used to cook them for us, and my mum did a fabulous cow heel pie. Wonderful. Good, nutritious food. Keep up the good work. All the kids through the glass are going, ugh, ugh, I'm going to McDonald's. Back in 3. Ugh.
Obviously, the voltage is different in Spain. It's a bit less than the UK, I think. So we do have the odd outage now and again. It's not unusual.
Yeah.
And as people who rented holiday apartments know that Quite often things trip in Spain if you put 2 or 3 devices on.
Yeah.
So it's just part of life. But then it dawns on you, you just can't do anything, anything at all. And neither your neighbours, and you have no news. And it's scary. And no one keeps these transistor radios, the old things we used to have with the big fat batteries. No one keeps those anywhere. And in fact, the few that were available was sold out across Spain within an hour.
Well, the tariffs coming down is going to get U.S. products, particularly agricultural products, into other countries that have been keeping us out. And you are seeing, billions and hundreds of billions of dollars of manufacturing being announced, expanded manufacturing in the U.S., companies coming back to the U.S. And we just saw that Apple is going to move their...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Ahead of the amazing Matthew Torbett, the only lefty allowed on this show because the man is brilliant and has an opinion, former Labour advisor, he's going to get it. So food stuff, corned beef and spam being brought back, rationing items from the wars because it's the 80th VE Day celebrations on the way. I asked you what food stuff should bring back, 87222. This is extraordinary. People are talking about pig's trotters, Jez, my dad used to get a hamper every Christmas and there used to be a whole cooked chicken covered in jelly in a tin, says Bronwyn from Clacton-on-Sea. Oh, my God. Let's bring him in. Matthew Torbett, you said, what did your mum bring you up on?
Potted beef butties.
Potted beef butties?
The paste that you would get in the jar, and we'd go to the market, on Stockport Market, and we'd go there. They'd do them all the time, and I loved them. I thought they were great.
And we survived, didn't we, kiddo?
Still here today, aren't we?
Spam, this lot, you're a bit older than them, they're all like, isn't that what you get in an email?
But you still get spam fritters down at the Chippy. Like,
Chippy Tea Friday.
Yeah.
Willie Peter Kay say it's the law. Have you seen that sketch with him through the glass in London? Have you got out moist? What? Out moist? It's true, isn't it?
It's absolutely true.
If you say that to somebody down here, and I spent 20 years up north, you get curry sauce, Chippy Tea on a Friday.
People don't get it. People don't get it, unfortunately, down here.
Not gravy?
Quite the same. Yeah. No, they don't do gravy, do they?
Why?
Don't. Like, no, I do. They've not. I mean, great gran used to say they've not lived.
They've not lived if you haven't had out moist with your fish and chips. Keep those coming, though. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Are we taking it? Oh, no. I'll go there in a minute to William. I'm going to go straight to Matt. Matt, sort of breaking news, right? Which, can you put that statement back up on the thing for me? Is that all right? So earlier today, the godfather of the Labour Party, and I'm interested in your opinion because Richard Tice has been quite forced on this. So Tony Blair has attacked Sir Keir Starmer's net zero ideology, or as Richard Tice called it, net stupid zero, and called for a radical reset of the government's green agenda. The former PM said it was wrong that people were being asked to make financial sacrifices and changes to their lifestyle when they know that their impact on global emissions is minimal. Now, that's quite... I mean, I think I'd come on air and go 3 cheers for Tony Blair. You know what I think about net zero. Yes, we can all care. Priorities. Straight away, within an hour, a spokesman for Number 10, this is breaking news, has just told reporters, we will reach net zero in a way that treads lightly on people's lives, not by telling them how to live or behave. Clearly there's going to be a range of views, but we are of the view that this is an enormous economic opportunity, and as the PM has made clear, we're already seeing the benefits. The official highlighted the economic opportunities in the push towards renewables. Our position remains unchanged. This is about the net zero sector growing 3 times faster than the economy as a whole. We're seizing these opportunities to drive growth, lower bills, really, and boost living standards. Now, I am fascinated by what you said to me off air because it is almost exactly what Richard Tice said. He said, this is a smokescreen. The godfather of the Labour Party has come out to lay a bit of ground to give Starmer a free rein at getting rid of Miliband ASAP because he's realised that the British public have got more important things to worry about than net stupid zero right now. I think that's fair enough.
Yes, I discussed this on the way in with an MP, Labour MP, who's very climate focused and he's very despondent and depressed by the Tony Blair story. I hadn't heard Number 10's rebuttal until just now. My view doesn't change that there will be a significant watering down of Labour's climate policies or priorities, and Ed Miliband will be gone in a mini reshuffle or a full reshuffle in the summer. the right of the Labour Party have never wanted net zero.
Right.
I remember Rachel Reeves giving a speech in Brighton in 2021 at Labour conference about was it the 26 billion, and they kept mentioning the amount they would borrow. I just thought it was ridiculous comms at the time. Don't tell people how much it is, because people go, well, that's a lot of money, isn't it? We don't want to be borrowing all that. And that same evening, there was a anonymous briefing, I'm fairly certain where it came from, and they're working down his street at the moment, is all I'll say without libeling anybody. And they said, this is ridiculous, we shouldn't be borrowing this money. And Ed has always been the one that's had to carry the can. I get on with one of Ed's special advisors quite well, believe it or not. He's one of the cleverer people I know who does actually quite get it. I don't know about all of them. He's very good. And every Friday night he'd settle down for dinner, and there would be a phone call from the Sun, and he'd go, right, so you've spoke to number 10, is he going again this week? Then it was a constant thing. So this has been coming for some time. It's interesting Tony Blair's got involved, because number 10, they might like Tony Blair's input on a personal level, you know, if he wants to influence Keir in some ways. On a policy level, Morgan McSweeney, the Chief of Staff, has absolutely no time for Tony Blair and his institute. He's very much more of a blue Labour man, and Maurice Glassman and the people that are trying to push for a more culturally conservative sort of Labour Party, but sort of still looking at nationalisation and other things, sort of a mix of both. He's got no time for the TBI, so I'll be intrigued of where this will go, but I can't see Ed lasting, unfortunately. It's game over for him.
Unfortunately? The man's a nightmare.
Listen, I can just go off him as a person. He's a nice enough bloke, bit of a geek.
But the truth is, and I know Richard's net stupid zero, and everybody has an opinion, but my opinion would be, for what it's worth, if somebody asked me, nearing 60, do I care about the climate, I would go, absolutely I do. If they said to me that if we achieve this ridiculous target that isn't achievable by 2050 of only 1% emissions when the rest of the world stopped giving a toss, because the rest of the world has gone, we've got other priorities. When you look, and you and I always talk about this, you came from up north, lad. I spent 20 years there. I would love, whatever government is in power, I'm afraid, to look first and foremost at the suffering that's going on in our own country. And I don't think you can sell to people whose backs are against the wall because of COVID, the pandemic, whatever, the cost of living crisis, food prices through there. You can't sell to them an ideology that is going to further bankrupt a country that is already on its bleeding knees. And I think that's the point. I think it might be laudable. It might be, I don't happen to think it is, but some people might think it's an honourable policy. It's not going to work right now, and it will be another U-turn. Yeah, Ed Miliband will be fired. And what does that say about Sir Keir Starmer? This was one of the main, you're grinning, one of the main things that he wanted to talk about. I mean, you know, no smashing of the GANs, net zero is going to go backwards, taxes are going up, the IMF says she's got no wiggle room, she's messed up the economy. You're always straight with me on this show. Not a great first year report, is it?
No, but you can see where it's going to go. Keir will do what he needs to do to survive. He's known Ed years and years. I think Ed actually made sure his seat was sorted for him in 2015. Ed will lose his seat and get a peerage. That's totally how it's going to happen. He'll take his medicine this summer and be told to go out the way, and then he'll go off into the climate world and do stuff like that as Lord Miliband. Next year, Rachel will be the one to go. It doesn't matter how lockstep they are.
You think Rachel Reeves will go?
If it's a choice between him or her, it's going to be her. 2026, we lose Wales and Scotland. Someone's got to carry the can. And what you do is you go, do you know what, we need to break these fiscal rules, we need to really go help her.
Can I just rewind, though? We've spoken for a couple of years, and I respect you enormously, you know I do. When we were running up to the election, you know, old Jezza would say, I remember 79, these people have got one policy, tax the rich or give pay rises to the unions and print money and we'll be screwed. That was how I was brought up. But even I, at the end of the 14-year debacle of the Tories, was happy to even... I want my government to be successful, but it is extraordinary to think that you, as a former Labour advisor and somebody who advocated a change of government, is sitting here saying, yeah, Ed Miliband and net zero will be gone by the summer. Rachel Reeves will take the can next year when we lose Wales and Scotland. You have one of the biggest majorities ever in British political history. You have to acknowledge they've made a right pig's ear out of this so far, to be fair.
Yeah, and it upsets me. That's why I see the writing on the wall. I'm a pragmatist and I'm a realist.
But you're honest.
So I can sort of go, I think we should do this, and we've got a massive majority, and we could transform people's lives, and we've chosen not to. What we've chosen to do under Rachel Reeves is to put through quite obvious inflationary policies by the Nix rise. I think if you're going to give people a raise to the national minimum wage, great. Don't also then put the pressure on business by the increase in national
and don't talk to me about growth
contribution.
if you're screwing every single small and medium-sized business to want to actually not even trade, because that makes money, right?
So this is the problem, and this is where I think, as much as the base is very shallow because there wasn't a great turnout at the last election, as we know, and people were just fed up of the Tories, you're going to miss a great big opportunity. And the way I've always seen it playing out, and I'll be astounded if it goes any other way, is Rachel or Keir will go in 26, and the party has to get itself ready. And actually those on, I would say, the soft left, the sort of pragmatist left rather than the socialist left, someone's got to get somebody ready, because 2026 is the time. It's going to happen, right? You've got to have a Joe Biden-like conversation with Keir Starmer, and you've got to go, Keir, we're so grateful. We had the worst results since the 1930s in 2019. You came in, killed off the left, got all the idiots out as they'll see them. And we thought it'd take 2 elections minimum. We've done it in 1. But if you stay, we're not going to win. We're going to lose the election if you stay in power. And that
you think he would go before the next election?
I think the man is not getting any younger and will be very fed up within 2 years. And also, you could go on your own terms and be considered not in my book, but a Labour hero. You turn the party round. You got back into government.
I read a really interesting article at the weekend, and I didn't know you were going down this angle, which is fascinating to me. It said that Morgan McSweeney, and many of the Labour High Command would view Keir Starmer as a man who got an unelectable Labour Party elected. Wes Streeting was always the person they wanted to put into number 10, and that they, almost identically, Matt, to what you were saying, believe there will be a conversation. I didn't bring it up because people have said to me, Keir Starmer, of course, will survive. But there comes a point, does there not, where, you're right, when the British public go against net zero, Ed Miliband will pay. When the IMF are 9 months saying to your Chancellor, you've got no wiggle room, love. You've said you're not going to raise taxes and you're going to be OK with public services, but actually you've got no wiggle room. You've given 30 billion quid's worth of raises to a couple of unions. You're now going to be faced, we've got calls left, right and centre overnight from people who are nurses and council workers want to go on strike because they quite rightly want to say, well, that union's got a rise, I want one. That's typical. That is a typical scenario. If you look at the quality on the front bench, then you've got Keir Starmer. Yeah, you're right. I can... Where's Streeting?
Seems the only obvious option. Does it solve anything? I don't think so. And actually, you're right in a lot of the analysis. I just don't think it's that deep for most people. I think that it's 3 words, and it's winter fuel allowance. That, for me, was politically toxic. Was basically Margaret Thatcher had the poll tax, right? Tony Blair had the Iraq War. David Cameron had Brexit. Keir Starmer decided 2 months in to have the winter fuel allowance.
Can I kick you after the break? It's a fascinating chat. Matt Torbett with Jeremy Kyle on Talk Drive, coming back in 3, 20 to 6.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
18 minutes to 6. A really fascinating conversation with Matthew Torbett, former Labour advisor, the only person on the left who comes on this show, and I mean this, and is honest and candid and straight. And you've just said before the break that you genuinely believe that the winter fuel allowance, 2 months into his premiership, if you like, Sir Keir Starmer, was the beginning of the end. Totally.
Ask anyone that's been up to Runcorn what's been on the doors these last few months, actually, last few weeks. Winter fuel allowance is toxic. It cut through everywhere. And do you know, someone said they came back to me, and this old woman said, I'd never voted Labour before. And I was so fed up, I really thought you were going to be different. And do you know what she said? The final comment, she said, but then the glasses. So it wasn't the shirts, the suits, this. She couldn't get her head round that somebody wouldn't pay for their own glasses.
I'm not having a go at you, but I've now got to read. It's fine, I love you, but I've now got to read the Runcorn and Helsby.
Oh, sorry,
No, Matt. No, I like that story because I think that story is really important to the show because it says that people are... In the end, with Thatcher, it was poll tax. In the end, with Blair, it was the Iraq War. I said it was his poll tax moment. You can then look at veterans and waspy women, I think, is disgraceful, and farmers is disgraceful. But what he did immediately was wrong. The candidates for the Runcorn and Helsby by-election candidate: Catherine Ann Blakelock, English Democrats; Dan Clark, the Liberals; Chris Copeman, the Green Party; Paul Duffy, the Liberal Democrats; Peter Ford will stand for the Workers' Party; the Howling Lord Hope for the Monster Raving Lunatic Party; Sean Halston, the Tories; Jason Philip Hughes, Volt UK, I don't know what that means; Alan McKee, Independent; Graham Harry Moore, English Constitution Party; Paul Andrew Murphy, the Social Democrat Party; Sarah Puchin for Reform; Karen Shaw for Labour; John Stevens for rejoining the EU. No, not a problem at all. Tell me what you said to me during the break in your own words.
Yeah, so when we're talking about the idea of a Biden-like conversation, it seems even more obvious to me because what we'd always heard through the grapevine and through whispers in Westminster, that the current Chief of Staff to the Prime Minister,
Morgan McSweeney,
was always running the shadow leadership operation of Wes Streeting, who he's much more aligned with. And I think with Keir, you know, people probably think I'm horrible about him. I don't mean to be, but I can only go off the way I dealt with him personally for years, and he wasn't that nice. You know, he was a liar and a fraud. I didn't trust him. None of us trusted him during Jeremy's era, and he was constantly briefing. But what I think Keir was an empty vessel. There is no real true politics behind him. There's no vision for the country. There's no what do I want to leave my legacy as. He's an empty vessel that the right of the Labour Party have used to kill off the left because they thought never can we ever have anyone like Jeremy Corbyn ever again come that close to being Prime Minister. We cannot allow it, and we need our people in charge. Morgan is very much, he's known Wes 20 years. Wes, I think, if he doesn't lead the charge in 2026, will never be Prime Minister because he will likely lose his seat to an independent that ran against him last time. And most polls say that at the moment. If there was an election tomorrow, who would you vote for? And he would be one of the big sort of casualties of the night.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Politics is about timing, actually. Boris Johnson won that huge majority and very quickly set about doing what he was doing, and they talk about the pandemic, but he made some very catastrophic mistakes and paid with his job. Liz Truss was Liz Truss. Sunak, I thought was not a success at all. I'm interested when you say empty vessel because there was, when I say timing, Boris was so haphazard, and they'd had 3 prime ministers in 3 weeks. Starmer at the election was this sort of lawyer. He was lawyerly, he was businesslike, but we kept saying, all of us, no conviction, no vision. I'm happy, right? I'm going to say something that will shock you, Ryan, right? Jeremy Corbyn scored more votes in 2019 than Keir Starmer did, right? Jeremy Corbyn, I would disagree with 99% of what Jeremy Corbyn believes in. But I tell you what I did respect in Jeremy Corbyn, like I respected Donald Trump, like I respected in Margaret Thatcher, like I respected in whenever it was with Tony Blair. They went, that's what I believe in, and I ain't being deviated by bloody focus groups or whether I'm being attacked in the media or threatened with this, that and the other. And you're right about Corbyn. To me, no way should he have ever been Prime Minister. He got nearer than anybody's ever likely to admit. But with Starmer, you would use this, wouldn't you, to make this country better? I don't think he has, I don't think he will, and you maybe are right.
You could pass anything. you know, Blair had his opportunity and he fumbled the bag a little bit. You can do something that can last for generations, and we aren't going to do it. We aren't going to do it. This is, you know, they're going to roll back on loads of stuff. And actually, this is the thing about Tony Blair. I don't believe what he actually says. I think this becomes more about electoral survival than what you actually believe in. This is, we can see the right are do, for whatever you believe, the right are being very successful, I think, in belittling net zero, the idea of net zero. And we haven't got great messengers at the moment in the Labour Party, or even those that wish to promote the idea of net zero or tackling climate change. Therefore, we need to change tack because they're cutting through. We're not going to be able to beat it, and therefore we need to ensure we've got the best opportunity to survive. This could have been also different. I was talking... The interesting thing about this is I'm very quickly becoming persona non grata in the Labour Party, certainly amongst government, because I will happily say it as I see it.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'll tell you something off air shortly, but it's not really, I shouldn't talk about it on here.
Well, let me tell you, Jeremy, this is Anne Sewell. More of Matthew Torbett, please. Total sense, totally wasted by Labour. Excellent man. Please have him on. I will say it again, says Michael. If Matthew Torbett was Labour leader, this country might stand a chance. Carolyn, wow, the first time a Labour guest has made me stop in my tracks and talk sense on your show. Let's hope that idiot Starmer is listening.
The hope that people may hopefully have is, I may be persona non grata amongst the Cabinet and people of the higher echelons. My phone has not been busier since leaving Parliament over the last few weeks of backbench Labour MPs going, you're saying what we can't, or what we feel like we can. Now, there's a culture of fear amongst the whip being taken from you, your career being taken away. And I was sat with 4 MPs, 3 of which very sort of stammered loyalists in a sense, and they said, how did we get here? And a couple of us said, well, some people wanted Keir Starmer and thought Keir Starmer should be leader of the Labour Party. And someone who's a bit older said, some of us thought Andy Burnham should have been Labour leader in 2015. And you talk about timing. This could have been different. We could have had Andy Burnham in. Whatever people think of him, he has political ethos and a vision. And you know, maybe we would be just doing something. I don't think we would have made the issues with winter fuel, certainly, and other sort of what I would call issues that have become terminal for the Labour
government. Could talk to you all day. Listen, will you come back next week?
Yeah, I'll be here next week. Let's dissect the locals next week, shall we?
All right, always an absolute pleasure. Matthew Torbett, former Labour advisor, a man on the left prepared to speak his mind, who has just said live on Talk he believes Keir Starmer, an empty vessel, will not lead Labour into the next election. This is Talk Drive.
So almost 24 hours without electricity. That's Quite something.
24 hours it took. Exactly. We've used the little blackouts here. They last for an hour maybe, and you normally get some sort of warning coming through, but never that everything has gone.
Well, hold on a minute. You're used to blackouts. So last time I looked, Spain's a first world country. Why do they have blackouts regularly?
But we do. We've lived in Spain for 15 years, and we do get blackouts. It does happen. We are used to it, but not for that length of time.
Well, the tariffs coming down is going to get U.S. products, particularly agricultural products, into other countries that have been keeping us out. And you are seeing, billions and hundreds of billions of dollars of manufacturing being announced, expanded manufacturing in the U.S., companies coming back to the U.S. And we just saw that Apple is going to move their manufacturing from China to India to avoid the tariffs.
Yeah.
So,
how's that working out for American workers? So they're going to get they're not going to get a job whether it's in India or China, are they?
I mean, what that is downright cowardly on the part of...
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Great response to Matthew Torbett again. He will be back next week. Thank you. A Labour advisor who actually has the courage. Rachel says, just love Matthew Torbett. He's so honest and realistic. He speaks so much sense. Lots more of him on this show. Somebody from the Labour Party prepared to speak the truth. He says, Starmer is an empty vessel and will be gone before the next election. 7 minutes to 6. Push the button, please.
Sport Summary on Talk.
Here he is, my illegitimate son. Good afternoon, boy.
Good afternoon, man.
Dad.
Something looks different today, and I've noticed.
Will you stop winding me up, because they've set you up for this. The background's wrong. Everything's
wrong. It's right.
What do you mean it's right?
That's Ian Collins' background, right?
Yeah.
That's the best background I've seen. It looks so much better.
It looks... What? No, it looks... I do this to wind him up. He's got a thing. Ryan's got a thing called the dump button. So if I swear and he thinks he's doing it, he's pushing. I know what dump button is. So I go, it looks shit. And he, like his hand goes out. It's ready. It looks complete
No, they did not set me up. I said to Jodie when I came in, it makes sense for Ian Collins to have the best backdrop on the station. Respect to IC, not EC. Respect to Colo, the best looking, the most well-groomed man on the station.
Who currently is right now with my wife.
Is he really?
Yeah.
Why?
She thinks he's the best.
What are they doing?
Sliced bread. I don't know, making out.
Jeremy, that's so
they're making out. They're making out.
No, that's weird though, isn't it, to say that about your wife and a work colleague, isn't it?
Just makes me think of your mother. Right, crack on.
Not funny at all.
All right, Champions League semi-final, first leg tonight. Arsenal PSG.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, PSG have looked phenomenal, but Arsenal somehow. I don't know, sort of woolly in the Premier League, from brilliant to sort of not brilliant, have been very impressive in the Champions League.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Could win it.
Absolutely. I think what's good about the last four here, also got Barca and Inter, I think all four teams are pretty evenly matched. Like, there's not a Real Madrid of years gone by. You expect them to win, even a City in recent years.
I think Barcelona will win the whole thing.
Possibly, but I think all four teams have genuinely got a realistic chance of winning it. You're bang on about Arsenal. They've, in the league, let's be honest, been pretty woeful in the second half of the campaign.
Not as bad as West Ham.
No, only 3 teams have been worse than West Ham, and they are 3 of the worst teams you've ever seen in Premier League history. But in the Champions League, they showed how good they were, where they dismantled Real Madrid and absolutely hammered Real Madrid from first minute of the Emirates right to the Bernabeu. It was almost a complete, perfect Champions League performance.
Well, it cost Ancelotti his job. I think he'll go on the basis that... Well, he's going on the basis.
He's going, apparently he's going to Brazil. He's going to be the new Brazil head coach. And then you've got this PSG team who, for years, have tried to sign the superstars. We know they've had your Mbappé's, your Neymar's, your Messi's, and we're used to. It's got nowhere near the Champions League. And now they haven't got any superstars, but they have assembled a really exciting, hard-working, talented team.
Enrique.
He's done a really good job. And they just look a well-drilled, well-organised team. Their front three, Kvaratskhelia, Dembele and Doué, pace, power. The midfield three are technically so good. I think we're in for an absolutely
biggest mistake Manchester United made in the world. They should have had Enrique in a heartbeat. I said it from day one.
Yeah, he's a top coach.
Top coach.
He's experienced, and I think tonight's gonna be a really fascinating time.
Is it at Highbury?
Arsenal at the Emirates. Yeah.
Emirates, yeah. Are you doing commentary?
I'm doing a watch along on talkSport's YouTube channel.
Yeah, so Sam Metaface is doing. No.
I've actually got some news to tell you. talkSport don't have the rights for the game tonight, so no one's doing commentary of it.
Oh, so you're just doing a watch along.
I'm doing a watching.
You're a voyeur.
Well, I mean, you know, they rights is way above my pay grade.
Let's talk about predictions. So it is at the Emirates. It's the first leg of the semi-final. PSG will want to score a goal and give themselves enough opportunity going back to the Parc des Princes. Is it next week?
Next week, yeah.
Prediction, please.
I'm going to sit on the fence. I think it's going to be tight, caged. There's definitely going to be goals in it. I mean, a draw is you can go for a draw in football. I'm going to go for a score draw. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw tonight.
No. It's going to be... No.
That's just factually incorrect, right?
No, factually incorrect.
Sorry.
PSG are going to win 2-1.
Yeah.
I do think they'll score a couple of goals.
Yeah.
I think Arsenal will score, but I fear... PSG will have 2. I agree with you about Enrique. I think they look totally well drilled.
Yeah, they're
Can I move from that to a subject that he's not on my list?
Why does this happen when I put this on my T-shirt?
It's got hold of one of your hairs.
I don't know.
Leeds promoted already. Leeds to the Premier League from the Champions. Daniel Farke.
Yeah.
I cannot believe I am reading stories that a man who's going to get Leeds up, possibly as champions, is likely to be sacked because of his success or lack of it in the Premier League.
Yeah. Why is that so surprising?
Does he not deserve the opportunity?
I think Leeds, because this is now the second year in a row where the 3 teams that have come up.
I'm doing this for a reason.
Are going straight back down. I think Leeds are going to look at all options here and look at different possibilities. Now, Daniel Farke might be a case of a really good experienced Championship manager. You want him to be the guy to get you out of the Championship. I think Leeds are well within their rights. They're a big club. They're an attractive prospect to look at other options. Now, is it a possibility?
They might say, Danny, you could have Farke. He'll have to go off.
Honestly, these are just boring, not funny dad jokes, Jeremy. You need to be better than this.
Just trying to rhyme wine up.
It's not by pretending to swear as a presenter on national radio. You've done this job for 65 years. And you need to be better.
I like to whine what?
Do you know what? This sports section is becoming a farce, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's always been a farce. I asked you this for a reason.
Why?
I'm going to make 2 predictions. And you're going to laugh. I believe that Jurgen Klopp will be the next Real Madrid manager.
I thought you were going to say Leeds.
But I'm going to tell you something who I think will be the next Leeds manager, and you lot are going to laugh at me.
Say Jose Mourinho.
Jose Mourinho. I genuinely believe that Leeds are going to get Jose Mourinho. That would be a marriage made in heaven, man.
Do you know what it would be for the Premier League? Phenomenal. It would be gold. Mourinho, Leeds. They'll either win it or he'll get sacked by October.
By October.
One way or another.
One way or another.
Take my money.
Astonishing.
Take my money.
I mean, wouldn't that be great?
How much time have I got?
A minute.
Can I tell you about a 14-year-old batter who goes by the name of Vayab Suryavanshi? He made history.
What's his name?
Suryavanshi is the surname.
Yeah.
He made history. 14. He hit IPL 100 yesterday. It was remarkable. He came off 35 balls. It was the second fastest 100 in the history of the competition. The IPL, for those who don't know, is the big kind of franchise tournament over in India. It is massive. I'll say it one more time. 14 hit 100 off 35 balls to win his team the game.
And he's a batter.
He's not a bowler.
Do you like spam fritters in batter?
I'm going to get some dinner before my show.
Listen,
what even is this?
No, there's a reason for that, because we've been talking about corned beef and spam all day. He is an amazing young kid, 14 years of age. Jose Mourinho to Leeds, Jurgen Klopp to Real Madrid, but Arsenal, you say 2-2 tonight.
I say 2-2.
The amazing Sam Allard, back tomorrow and talk. Thanks.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back to Drive for Tuesday afternoon. We're live across the UK. Wendy Coburn says, stop bloody interrupting, Jez. You're getting on my nerves. Fair enough. Oh, you want me to talk now? Oh, I see. No, she says this. Grant Hopwood, this is very interesting. Ryan, you'll love this. Grant Hopwood. An English team has won the Champions League every year a pope has died. Is that true? That's a very interesting fact, if it is. 2005, you're absolutely right. More response from Matthew Torbett, fascinating, former Labour advisor who was on the show, head of sport. A guy who was freely admitting on this show how disappointed he and several other people are in the Labour Party. He feels that Starmer destroyed his legacy in 5 minutes by the winter fuel allowance. Wow, Matthew Torbett has been brilliant. Very interesting man. Definitely keep having him on, says Sue in Lancashire. Thank you. Jez, says Betty, McSweeney, very, very interesting. Very, very interesting man. Definitely something to do with streeting. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Good God. We're going back to this food. Don't know if you've heard the story today, ladies and gentlemen. To celebrate 80 years of VE Day, they are bringing back foods that were used as rationing in the Second and First World War. Spam. And corned beef are being brought back. So I asked you on 87222, start your message with the word talk, what foodstuffs would you like to be brought back? Jezza, says Steve, my father was a gamekeeper when I was young. We would, oh God, we would have squirrel and crow pie twice a week. Would we? Really? Rabbit and partridge stew. That's from Rico in Cambridge. Do we think that's right? Partridge stew? I don't know. Hold on a second. Oh, hello. There's lots of it. 87222. Start your message with the word talk. So much to talk about. We are delighted. Are we going straight to our next guest? You're giving me that look, Ryan. He's terrified that I'm going to say the wrong thing. I've got you right on edge now, haven't I? We're very delighted to welcome a man who, free from the shackles of being an MP, has turned into a fantastic gentleman. We love having him on the show every week. Sir John Redwood, former Cabinet Minister. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon, Jeremy. Well, I've declared summer and put on a summer blazer to cheer the place up.
Good man. Look at you. Look like you should be at the Masters, officiating on the first...
Well, I'd like to be at some sporting event, but, you know, I couldn't resist your invitation.
Now, John,
so
you don't know...
I'm doing my duty.
Good man. You don't know how I'm going to start this, but I'm going to do it, and I need you to use your brain, because this is off the cuff. Today, it has been announced that foods associated with rationing during the Second World War are seeing a resurgence in time for the 80th anniversary of VE Day. Corned beef and spam are seemingly back on the menu for more Britons. I threw it open. I said, what would you like to bring back? We've had pig's trotters, we've had Arctic roll, we've had lard on toast, we had everything. If you had a chance, because this lot, by the way, through the glass, John, are that young. When I said spam, they thought it's what you get in your email outbox or something. What foodstuffs would Sir John Redwood bring back if he could for 2025?
Well, I'm not sure I liked all those things very much, but I think to enter into the spirit of it, my grandmother used to be able to get hold of the odd rabbit to supplement the rations. So, I mean, maybe a rabbit pie is part of the fare from the Second World War.
See, ladies and gentlemen, John Redwood, rabbit pie. What a great, great involvement. Now, I never thought that I would be talking to you, not in a green jacket, but I never thought I'd be saying this to you, Sir John Redwood. Hurrah for Tony Blair.
Yes, indeed. He's done something right,
for Tony Blair.
Yes. He's told his party that the net zero policies are mad and that they've got to back off them. He said it's going to cost the public too much and our contribution would be tiny. He could have gone one further and say what I always say, which is that all these bad policies the government are proposing increase world CO2 as well as upsetting most of us and costing us a fortune.
It is fascinating. Sir Tony Blair this afternoon attacked Sir Keir Starmer's net zero plans, called for a radical reset, Sir John. The former PM said it was wrong that people were being asked to make financial sacrifices and changes in lifestyle when they know full well that their impact on global emissions is minimal. Now, we have this argument the whole time. Richard Tice was on, he calls it stupid net zero, but it is 1%. And whilst the rest of the world seemingly are changing their priorities because cost of living, all the stuff that's going on in the world about prioritising, still it seemed that the Labour Party was concentrating on this. Now, I don't know if you've been aware of this, but 2 hours after Satone had his moment, Number 10 has responded to this. Have you heard the statement from Number 10? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't.
I thought they were going to double down, weren't they?
No. We will reach net zero in a way, say Number 10 in the last 20 minutes, that treads lightly on people's lives, not by telling them how to live or behave. Clearly, there's going to be a range of views, but ours is that this is an enormous economic opportunity. And as the PM has made clear, we are already seeing the benefit. The official also highlighted the economic opportunities in pushing forward towards renewables. Says our position remains unchanged. This is about the net zero sector growing 3 times faster than the economy as a whole. We're seizing opportunities to drive growth, lower bills and boost living standards. Now, take a breath, because Richard Tice, Matthew Torbett have both said, and are both different sides of the political spectrum, the same thing. They both believe that this is a very interesting moment, that Blair, the godfather of the Labour Party, has made this comment because it will give Keir Starmer in a few months, certainly in the summer, the freedom to move against Ed Miliband and move away and row back on this net zero madness, because he's suddenly woken up to the truth that no, a majority of people don't actually want this. They might be concerned, but that's not their priority. Your thoughts, Sir John Redwood?
Well, I hope that's right. But I mean, the muddled recent statement is meaningless, because the government is actually saying it's going to carry on with policies that are going to cost a fortune for all of us. Heat pumps are not an affordable or sensible proposition. And the electric cars are still leading to this very heavy tax of £15,000 on every diesel and petrol car over a limited number that the public want to buy and the industry would like to sell. These are mad policies that are doing huge damage. And the idea that there are all these thousands of green jobs. Well, yes, there are hundreds of thousands of green jobs in China, but we're importing most of the things from China. They make the batteries, they make the solar panels, and we need capacity in Britain before we can say we're getting the green jobs here. And they forget to account for all the jobs they're destroying. I mean, we've seen a lot of the jobs going, and a lot of jobs going in the oil and gas industry, because they won't even allow us to get our own oil and gas out. A crazy madness which adds to world CO2. We've got a whole load of steel jobs going in Port Talbot from the last government, wanting a net zero plan for that steelworks. And I fear we're going to lose jobs in Scunthorpe. I don't believe they're going to hold on for those jobs for very long. I think they're doing that ahead of an election. But there is no plan to renew and modernise those blast furnaces and keep those jobs. So you've got a big loss of jobs from the things you're closing down. And the new jobs, they're more abroad than they are at home.
Both Matthew and, well, actually Matthew specifically said that as a former Labour advisor, he's very outspoken, it's very interesting. He said that he was massively disappointed. He and many people around the Labour Party believe that the winter fuel allowance within 2 weeks, right, 2 months of Starmer, 2 months I should say, getting into, was his poll tax moment, Thatcher's poll tax moment, that he would never recover from it, that he's actually an empty vessel, that he reckons, this is what Matthew Torbett said, that at some point in 26 or 27, somebody will take him aside and say, you've been amazing, you got us elected, but if we carry on like this, we're going to be decimated, and they will move Wes Streeting in as soon as possible before he loses his seat at the next election to an independent, probably about Gaza anyway. Fascinating, because we are sat here today openly with a former Labour advisor saying that a man with a 180-seat majority could be gone before the next election, John.
Yes, well, I think that is a realistic assessment. I mean, Labour is less brutal on its leaders than the Conservative Party are, but if enough Labour MPs get really panicked about the state of their seats, then they may well want to see some action taken behind the scenes to remove the leader. And he has completely trashed their poll position, so they've got down to the very low levels the Conservatives took 14 years to get down to, and they've done it in about 8 months.
Yeah.
And you can see that in the run-up to these elections. We're going to see real elections quite soon, but I suspect they're going to bear quite a lot of relationship to the polling we're all talking about. And to get to that position with such a strong majority, it is just proof that, as you rightly say, he's attacked the pensioners, he's attacked the farmers, he attacks the small business people, he's attacked all of us with much higher energy bills, which is related to the way they're conducting their net zero policies. And he keeps on giving money to foreigners instead. So we're extremely generous at anybody turning up here illegally and legal migrants coming in for low income and no income positions in the United Kingdom. He's very generous with Mauritius whilst giving them a very valuable island at the same time. And so people are saying, we've had enough of this. Yeah. Surely Britain comes first. Surely that our pensioners and our lower income people deserve a better break from a Labour government, not to be taxed to death and accused of having the wrong views on things.
Do you think that politicians in the past, and how long were you in the House for working in 30-something years?
37 years I was, yes.
Do you think that, I tread carefully here, do you think that politicians have forgotten over the years that it is the electorate who not only put them there, but whose support they need to maintain or they will be out? Because I genuinely believe that there is an increasing number on a daily basis of people who have switched on, who are saying exactly what you just said, Sir John, which is never been popular in the past because Great Britain, we're the head of everything, we should do the right thing. I think people are now no longer scared. 10 years ago, you couldn't mention the word immigration, you'd be called a racist. The fact of the matter is, it is ridiculous when your country is stretched to be inviting another city the size of Cambridge in the next 2 years. I also think energy is going to be at the forefront of the next election. I think people are going, hold on a minute, we can talk about the land, but our energy bills are going up, this net zero thing is going to bankrupt us. I think that a lot of politicians are in for a rude awakening because I think the British public genuinely have had enough. And that's why I think other parties are showing success in the opinion polls, because I think the British public, you know, I listened to Badenoch the other day saying the Tory party will always survive and will come back and win because we've been around for 200 years. I'm not sure that washes anymore, John. I think people are so let down, so lied to, and have been so disillusioned, they'd allow anybody to have a go. I genuinely believe that.
I think you're right, that people are very impatient and very unhappy, and they're very disappointed because they rightly saw that the last Conservative government hadn't kept its promises on immigration, hadn't kept all its promises on taxation and the economy, and they therefore said, well, we want to change. Labour said, we are that change. They avoided anything too spiky or too socialist in their offering. And then they get into office and they double down on the worst policies that the Conservatives were following that people wanted change, and invent worse ones of their own with higher taxes and attack on small business and enterprise and all the things we've been talking about. People didn't vote to double down on net zero and to be told their fuel bill had got to go up and they've got to try and buy a very expensive electric car they didn't want and they can't afford. And they certainly didn't vote to rip their gas boiler out, which is working perfectly well, and try and find the money with a subsidy to put in a heat pump. And they're fed up with being lectured on all that kind of thing. They say to the government, do what you were promising at the high level. Give us growth, give us prosperity, give us better paid jobs, better training, more opportunity. I think people are desperate to be allowed to lead their own lives and to have government help on the way to success rather than government hindrance. Yeah. Tax us out of existence, regulate us to death, get in our way, annoy us with giving priorities to people abroad and not to people at home. So, yes, I think it's easy for MPs to get into the wrong position because it's very clubbable at Westminster, and they'll be told, the Labour MPs by their wits, you know, you've got to hang together and it will come right and you mustn't be disloyal to your leader. And this is broadly what we said in the manifesto, although in many cases it isn't. And many people think they should be loyal because they'll be told, well, if Labour is more divided and you have more MPs on your programme saying Labour's rubbish from the Labour side, then they think it will get worse. But some of the Labour MPs need to be brave enough to get change while they still can. That was what the Tories failed to do, although there were attempts by various people to get changes through changes of leadership, but it never worked. And so Labour can see what happens when you don't get the right change and you don't have the right people.
He said, Matthew Torbett, that what will happen is that Ed Miliband will be pensioned off this summer because he believes that Starmer will use the Blair intervention to row back on the net zero madness because, as I repeat, we can hardly afford even the interest on the money we owe, let alone billions more for some crazy dream that's a percentage of the world's emissions when the rest of the world are doing important things like stopping the migrant. Donald Trump, somebody gave me a figure the other day, by the way, 383,000 in 3 months, January, February, March last year. This 3 months under Trump, love him or loathe him, 8,300. Do the maths. It's simple. Yeah. It's simple. So,
minus 95% is the figure they're quoting. Wouldn't we love to have that?
Oh, can you imagine? I mean, can you imagine having that? But the thing, to hear this guy saying that Keir Starmer destroyed the left, got them elected, at that point they've realised, or they always knew, he describes him as an empty vessel, lacking conviction, a loyally organised man, but nobody who genuinely believes in his heart and his soul about something, is prepared to put his neck on the line and say, do you know what, it's not about my career, this is what I believe in, vote for me or don't. And actually, we've been saying that for months. That's obvious. And I don't know whether he got in simply because the British public were fed up with the Tories. I think that's the case. I don't think he'd have stood a cat in hell's chance if the Tories hadn't messed up so badly. But it seems, if you listen to certain people, that there are already increasing murmurs against him. And this sort of Blair intervention today could be very, very seminal, couldn't it?
Yes, it could indeed. And remember that Labour only got 34% of the popular vote, an extremely low figure that an opposition party normally gets rather than the winning party gets. So he started from a very unpopular position, and I and others were in a friendly way saying, well done, you've won, but do remember 2/3 of the public don't want you there from your starting date, which is much more than usual. And so reach out, understand that we have problems and issues that you need to take seriously as well. And he didn't. He did the opposite. He allowed the left to declare war on anybody with money. So we've had a flight of 10,800 millionaires from the country. They didn't seem to understand that the rich had been paying the bulk of the income and capital taxes, as you'd expect. And if you put them off too much, your tax revenues go down. So we've now got the problem. They want to spend more and they're getting less revenue. I mean, they didn't seem to understand that the top 1% of income tax earners pays 30% of the total income tax.
Absolutely.
And, but you very progressive system.
Of course. And you say, we know this, right? But are people astounded? This is pure... This is like a stereotypical Labour approach. We say it all the time on this station. You come in by promising the earth, your tent's full of all sorts of people, I'm going to give you... You get in, the union paymasters that put you there start their demands, you cave to a couple, and then the rest say, as they have over the... What am I reading here? Nurses, teachers and council issues, staff issues, strike threats to Rachel Reeves saying, if we don't get what everybody else is, we're going on strike. So then everybody goes on strike. In the past, when you were an MP, they'd print money, inflation would go up, right? Everybody would be skint. The latest thing, of course, is to destroy public services and essentially at the basis of it all, and you just said it, they've only got one policy, which is tax the rich. I think the rich pay enough tax. Sorry if I'm going to say the wrong thing here. Of course the very rich should pay as much as possible. But the truth is, if those people go, you won't grow a business, you won't have investment, you won't have leadership, and you won't have finance, and that's disastrous.
No, I want the rich to pay most of the tax. It's the obvious thing to do, but you have to set levels of tax and methods of taxing that they will accept, because they don't have to stay here, they don't have to pay here. They have good lawyers, good accountants, they can go and live somewhere else. And there is a very big exodus. In the 1970s, when I was a very young man, we had something called the brain drain with the Labour government. And even our pop stars and our footballers and whatnot were queuing up to go abroad to avoid the very penal 83% tax rate that they had.
83%, you get 17 pence in the pound, I remember that.
And if you dare to have savings income, it was 98%, so it was communism, basically. And then they wondered why so much talent was leaving the country and why we're getting poorer. Now we've got a paler version of that going on now. The billionaires are queuing to get up and get out, and they've got places to go to anyway. They've got more than one home and more than one country they can go to. They can take their affairs somewhere else. They're going to Rome, they're going to Milan, they're going to Dubai. They're going to Portugal. Even those places on the continent are offering a better tax deal than the UK is. The UK has to understand it's in a very competitive market for talent and wealth, and you need a lot of talent and wealth to run a successful country. And if you're not competitive, then you get poorer.
Completely fascinating, John. Always great to have you on. Just one final thing before you go, because this again, on the day that migrant crossings hit 10,000 so far this year, and our government has talked about smashing the gangs, Mrs. Balls, as I now call her because she winds me up something chronic, stood up today and said, sex offenders will be denied asylum rights in a new law. Could I respectfully suggest to the ex-father of the house, here's the thing. Why don't we actually stand up and say, people will be denied asylum rights if they're criminals or they can't bring anything to society or they haven't got any paperwork or they have got whatever. Why? So that again is just a clickbait line. Sex offenders, of course sex offenders. What about everybody else who's taking the mickey out of us?
Yeah, and again, it's something just said, I would imagine, with the elections in mind, because they're losing votes to Reform and Conservatives. But of course, you also can ask the follow-up question, well, now you've identified some criminals that shouldn't be here, where are you going to send them? Have you actually solved the problem of taking them out of this country? They go on about how they deported more in the last few months than before, but they're all voluntary ones. They weren't the difficult ones. They haven't been able to deport the difficult ones. And so they're going to have to change the law in the direction of allowing them to deport these criminals and override human rights legislation if they want to honour their latest promise.
Couldn't agree more. Lovely to have you on. And the green jacket, I mean, listen, do you remember Ted Rogers, 3-2-1? I'm expecting an orange one next week, Sir John Redwood.
I don't have an orange one, but I've got a few other colours if you want them.
Yeah, we need summer colours, Sir John. Summer colours.
I'll bring you some summer colours.
Good man.
I like cheering people up. I want a prosperous and free society.
Good man. We love having you on the show. Thank you so much indeed. Sir John Redwood, 37 years as the MP for Wokingham, former Cabinet Minister. Many people on the Tory side, myself included, say he most definitely 15 years ago should have been the Prime Minister of this country. 25 past 6, 03 44 499 1000. We're coming right back with Kinsey Schofield live in LA, baby.
So almost 24 hours without electricity. That's quite something.
24 hours it took. Exactly. We've used the little blackouts here. They last for an hour maybe, and you normally get some sort of warning coming through, but never that everything has gone.
Well, hold on a minute. You're used to blackouts. So last time I looked, Spain's a first world country. Why do they have blackouts regularly?
But we do. We've lived in Spain for 15 years, and we do get blackouts. It does happen. We are used to it, but not for that length of time.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. What is it? 6:27. We're live across the UK. The legend, I'm just reading this, the legend that is Kev O'Sullivan is here from 7 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, it's Petrie Hoskins. She's a dish. 6 o'clock in the morning, of course, the legend that is, and proper good friend of mine, and a legend on the radio. Migrant back, 6 o'clock, morning glory. When I tell you he's up and at it nice and early, you know what I'm saying. 03, look at Amy's going, what's wrong with him? 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. Who's this? David in South Wales, is it? All right. If Spain went 100% green energy last week, then I guess Miliband is telling another lie by stating the UK is leading the world with green energy in the race to destroy the country through his net zero cult. Stupid net zero. Many people angry. Andrew says he's in Chorley. Coming in your ears. Chorley FM. Coming in your... Never mind. Keep on doing what you're doing, Jez, exposing the continued hypocrisy of two-tier Keir and his band of not very merry men, and, of course, let's not forget the women. John Hickson. John's in Numthorpe. Lovely. Jez, great start to the programme. Oh, thanks. One suggestion, why don't we take the owner from solar farms and put them on people's roofs? Then bills will come down and we won't need more grids to transfer back. Do you know what, mate? I don't even understand what solar panels are. Steve Chandler, the most worrying thing about the possibility of Starmer going by 2026 is that he will push his plans to destroy the country into warp speed. It will cause so much damage out of sheer spite. I don't know. Viv's in Manchester. Hello, Viv. Whatever happened to pork chops with a kidney in? Bloom in Brussels, that's what. This is because, if you're just tuning in, a big story today was the return of certain foods associated with rationing in the Second World War. They are bringing back, OK, corned beef. They're bringing back Spam. Yes, no, it's not what you find in your email. And I've been saying all day on 87222, start your message with the word talk, what sort of food do you think we should bring back? Matthew Wilkinson in Lincoln says, the food I used to love as a child was peas pudding with vinegar sandwiches. Peas pudding up, peas pudding cold, peas pudding in a pot. No, never mind. Jane says, they are bringing back corned beef and Spam because we will soon have bloody rationing under this government. Oh, my God. Rabbit pie with black pudding in it. My lot through there are going like, what's that like? Is that like a kebab? No. Karen's in Taunton. Taunton's where my parents lived. Nice. So this Ming Va's strategy during the election was referring to Starmer because he's an empty bleeding vessel. Oh, dear. Jez, my mum used to have sheep's brains on toast. Ooh. She used to boil a sheep's head, then remove the brains and give the rest to the dog. She also ate something called chitterlings, which were the small intestines of a pig. Great, well, that's gone down really well. Please do me a favour, says Steve in Cambridge. Tell Kinsey she has the best smile in the world. Long may it continue. She makes my life. Steve in Cambridge. Kinsey Schofield, Steve in Cambridge loves you.
Well,
he loves you.
How often do I send you a text saying, find me a husband? Thank you for your work here is done. Thank you so much.
Can I just say that I would never, ever, ever do that, because you are beautiful, talented, independent, vivacious, switched on, an incredible woman, probably one of the best broadcasters I've ever met. And you don't need to find a man. The right man will find you. You're an astonishing talent.
Well, let's put that on my business card. It's going to take up a lot of room, but I appreciate the endorsement. God bless you.
That is our nice start. Obviously, on a daily basis when we speak, our aim is to be as fruity as possible so we can be on Jimmy Kimmel. Because Jimmy Kimmel plays Kinsey Schofield and Jeremy Kyle because, well, he played the famous one I asked you how you ate a Cadbury's cream egg. In the Second World War, certain foodstuff were rationed, not for people in A, because they eat all the food. Just thinking about America, give me a food that you'd love to bring back that you don't have anymore.
Well, I no longer live in New Orleans, so I don't have Mardi Gras, the Mardi Gras cake. I enjoyed that, the king cake. That was, but it still exists, just not for me because I'm so far from New Orleans.
You can't say king cake in this country because they'll think you're being rude.
Oh, really? Well, I
don't want a piece of your king cake. You can keep it to yourself. Oh, God, he's dumped. Did you dump that? Oh, my God, Ryan's he's getting careless, mate. I love it. Right, what food would you have brought back?
I really don't know. I can't think of it. I'm not a foodie like Meghan Markle. I eat what's in front of me. I'm just gracious.
I nearly texted you the other morning honestly, Sunday morning, but you'd have been asleep, right? Came downstairs about 20 to 7, and Mrs. Kyle, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to put this on social media, but I'm going to be slaughtered. She said, look at Oliver's breakfast. It was a bloody fruit plate with melon and mango and kiwi fruit and raspberries and strawberries. And I went, oh God, she's become Meghan Markle. It's a nightmare.
Except she's adorable, and you love her, and there's an authenticity there that Meghan lacks.
Well, let's talk about Meghan Markle, because very interesting article in the Daily Mail over here today, because we've started to see a lot more of the children, well, the backs of their ginger heads. Well, I think the girl's ginger, or auburn, or strawberry blonde, or
They're
whatever.
both, yeah, both.
They're both ginger. And a rather cynical piece in the paper today, which is spot on. We know why you're using your children so much now, because everybody else is seen through the facade that is you. She's slaughtered this weekend because there were some business cards in the back of one of her podcasts. She's still using her royal title, HRH, despite our late Queen warning her against it. The Duchess of Sussex was HRH, the Duchess of Sussex, was spotted on a card she'd sent to friend Jamie Kern-Lima inside a gift basket. Harry and Meghan have previously agreed not to use those titles for commercial purposes following their exit from the United Kingdom in 2020. She's got some bloody front, hasn't she?
You know, I don't know if the image is right in front of you, but Meghan has said through a representative today that she is not using the HRH title. We have literal, tangible proof.
Do we have it, right? Do we have it? Do we have a picture of that basket? Because it's true. It was on social media.
Yes.
She sent a bloke or some friend of hers from it, and it said, present from HRH, the Duchess of Sussex. She's lying.
Yeah, she's gaslighting. She's lying. Absolutely. And this is just another one of those examples of Harry and Meghan disrespecting the Queen. I know she is no longer here, but that does not mean that the rules don't apply to you any longer. They stole the Queen's name, Lilibet, then lied about how they had her permission. When BBC reported that the palace said they did not have her permission, they threatened litigation that they backed down from because they realized there's no way that they would win that.
Taking that point, do you know where Lilibet came from?
Yeah, I do, but go ahead and share it.
No, this is between Margaret and the Queen. It's what Margaret called the Queen because she couldn't say Elizabeth, so she's Lilibet. And it was so the most important thing to the Queen. And I remember at the time when they called their daughter Lilibet, we just all went, oh my God, they'll stop at nothing but this. And you're right. Our great Queen, our country will never be the same without her, and I've said it, and I make no apology for that. She was like everything. All of my life, the Queen was the Queen. She was told not to use the HRH title, perfectly I think, as a perfect thing to a woman who wanted nothing to do with it. What I'd love from you is, where do you think that the wee ginger boy stands in all of this, Harry? Because I know, I'm trying to tread carefully. He loved his grandmother, and I'm sure there is plenty about him that is beginning to think, oh my God, this woman will stop at nothing. Maybe I'm sticking up for him unfairly. Maybe he needs to put his foot down. Would he have known about this? Would he be appalled about this? What do you reckon? Because this is absolutely against what she was told to do by our late Queen. It's disgraceful.
Right. He would have known about this. He has nothing below the trousers. This is not the only issue that I believe is causing tension in the home, because you also mentioned those images of the children. How can you post images and videos of your children the same week that you are campaigning in New York to keep kids off of social media because they are committing suicide? It's absolutely ridiculous.
Beggars
the hypocrisy. The hypocrisy that come from these two. And the HRH title, Meghan dismissed it and said, I only use it with friends and family. You don't have permission to do that.
But even still, think about what you just said. She's so, I'm going to say arse, Ryan, if you want to get your button ready. She's so up her own backside. You just told me, she said, I only use the HRH title amongst family and friends. Like you'd go to your friend, Ryan, can you go and get me a cup of tea? HRHJ sending you. What a load of old tosh. She's full of it, that girl, isn't she? She's full of it, man.
She's absolutely full of it. Jamie interviewed Meghan on her podcast this week and introduced her as the Duchess of Sussex. And then Meghan proceeded to talk about how she's no longer trying to impress people despite shoving titles down our throats. It's all a crock. I'm so sick of the media here in the States, even playing their game. They're shameless and they are so desperate right now to make a buck. And they continue to stomp all over the poor Queen's legacy. And she gave them the benefit of the doubt because she did love Prince Harry, but she didn't realize what a vicious,
I would actually
social climber he married.
I suspect she probably did, but so ingrained was she in the duty of her role and how it was important. It was never political, and she didn't play stuff out in public. I fully expect the Queen, very much probably like William admitted, he knew from day one that she was bad news. I suspect the Queen also knew that, but we all know the reason he fell for Meghan Markle. But yeah, it's extraordinary, and you're right, maybe I shouldn't defend him. If your wife publicly slags off your family and then uses it and you've just nailed it, haven't you? On the week you go to New York and say children shouldn't be on social media, you're then posting pictures of your ginger kids to try and increase your followers. Absolutely outrageous. The other thing I wanted to ask you was, the Donald, the orange man baby, has celebrated 100 days. Britain and the EU, though, about to sign an anti-Trump political declaration, which sums up how unswitched on our Prime Minister is. Just to make my point, a lot of people in this country love Donald Trump, a lot of people don't. But the one thing that I love about the man is he got elected by telling the American people what he was going to do. And nobody can bleed and well doubt that in the first 100 days, he's done exactly what he said he was going to do.
Yeah, I also, while we're acknowledging his anniversary, we should also acknowledge your anniversary, because I heard Mike Grimm saying it was his year anniversary, which would make it your year anniversary of drive time, right?
Is it?
So happy anniversary to you.
Oh,
yeah.
Thank you. Is that right? A year of looking at Ryan. Oh, God.
Yeah, you're so lucky. I've seen Ryan. He's a handsome fella. But I think what we're seeing here, I don't think Donald Trump has much respect for Keir Starmer, unfortunately.
Well, then that's another thing I support him on then. He's a big character. I mean, absolutely seen right through the dreary Starmer. But it's interesting. Over there, I suspect it's different. But what we see, I mean, we heard some figures today that on the southern border, in the 3 months, January, February, March last year, 383,000 people flooded your country. These 3 months under Donald Trump, 8,000. I mean, by anybody's standards, that's astonishing. It's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? It's down 90-something%. We crave that in the United Kingdom, and he's done it. He's been unpopular. Ian Collins had a Democrat on who was crying. You lost. Deal with it.
I will say Melania, in a recent poll, it does poll higher than her husband. It was just recently her 55th birthday. She is the most popular person in the White House right now because people are concerned about the tariffs. They are concerned about rising costs. We have to assume that Donald Trump, we're seeing him doing some U-turns. So he's listening. He has advisors saying, I don't think this is the right direction. So he is changing direction. We have to hope that he has a bigger plan, and that if those plans don't come to fruition, he will continue to listen to guidance and change his focus, whether it's on car tariffs, whatever. But it does seem like when everybody's like another U-turn, I would argue perhaps he's listening to the people that he's hired around him, that he says are smarter than him, and maybe he's making those decisions based on some decent advice.
Listen, every leader should have people around them. If I was a leader, you would definitely be an advisor. You are super brilliant. Thank you. God, that sounded American. And happy anniversary to you. What anniversary are you celebrating? Just remember, Steve in Cambridge wants to make you Mrs. Steve.
Thank you so much.
It's not happening. I'm not allowing it. Definitely aim higher than Steve in Cambridge. It's not happening. See you in a bit. Lots of love. Bye-bye. This is Talk Drive.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Back 18 minutes to 7. Kev O'Sullivan, the legend that is Kev, is here from 7 o'clock. Keep those calls coming. We'll get some on. We'll also get him on as well. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87 what? Double two. Shut up, Ryan. You're making me... He does it all the time. He keeps telling me about his worm. I don't want to know. 87 treble two. There's a thing in the studio which is called a worm, OK? Which is what the audience is doing. And it's good if your worm stands up. It's quite depressing if your worm drops down and is quite floppy. Apparently ours has been up today, and Ryan was making that sort of innuendo-based comment to us. I personally would have dumped it, but he's just a cheeky boy. 0344 499 1000. If I get this wrong, Jodie, this is your fault even. Our next guest is a spokesman, don't look at me, for Republicans overseas. Errol Moorcoach, welcome to Talk Drive. How are you?
Doing well, thank you for having me.
Really good to have you on. So we were just talking to Kinsey Schofield, touching him on quickly Donald Trump. 100 days. I was saying, I make no apology for this. I'm sure there's an awful lot about Donald Trump that is annoying to a certain section of America. But right now in the United Kingdom, we have a man who's about as committed as, I don't know. It is, to me, anyway, fascinating that somebody can be elected by telling the American people what he's going to do and then shock, bleed and horror, Errol, actually goes and does it. I think that's brilliant. I mean, I gave the numbers about the southern border, 383,000 in the 3 months of January, February, March last year. This 3 months this year, 8,000. That tells me the man, love him or loathe him, is doing exactly what he said he was going to do, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's been something that I've run into comically during the first 100 days with people who voted for Trump. They come up to me and say, well, what's up with these tariffs? Where did these come from? I said, well, did you listen to the campaign? Did you listen to what the promises he made to the American working class, to the people in Detroit who have had their economy gutted? That's why Donald Trump is in Detroit today, by the way, for his first 100 days, because these are the promises he made to the working class. When he made the promises to shut down the border, that wasn't a joke. We meant it. When he said he's going to dismantle the corrupt jobs program that produced one of the lowest educational rates in the world, meaning the Department of Education, and as somebody full public school my entire life, I fully support that, having gone through that system and seen how useless and counterproductive it was. When he makes all these promises and then keeps them, then you get this, faux outrage by people who either didn't pay attention or two were just, playing along for the fact that they didn't really want Kamala Harris, but they didn't actually want Trump. So it's very interesting to see that interplay, because the people who actually supported Trump, which is the majority of American people and American working class people, they all are on board. What I'm seeing is a lot of people who are in that upper echelon, that top 5% with a lot of transnational equity and this and that. They're the ones who are coming to me, the sky is falling, Chicken Little, I'm down 8%. And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. But the average American worker is seeing inflation go down. They've seen the cost of food go down slightly, and they've seen a substantial decrease in the cost of gasoline. They don't have shares in Exxon or Shell.
Oh, wouldn't we love that? That we had a Prime Minister who actually drilled the liquid gold that we've got under our ground, but we can't do that because that'll upset some people who wear green things the whole time and run around talking about the earth. Can I ask you about the tariffs on a serious note? Yes. Again, maybe I'm different to other people. I see him as a businessman who always does a deal. If you're going to raise ridiculous tariffs against people, they're going to get on their hands and knees and crawl to you, and you're going to get a better deal than you had before, and that's part of putting your head on the block. Would that be a fair assessment, to be fair? Yes?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And in everything in negotiations, everybody's no till you're yes. And so if you're going to start at a no, you better start at a pretty far away no if you want your yes to pull in.
Well, we used to, when we were selling, when I was a kid, this is not American, this is English, but you will get this. This is the same thing. We used to prepare 3 pitches, what we called gold, silver and bronze, right? They weren't going to buy gold. We weren't going to let them buy bronze. Everybody knew that at the end of the day, they were going to buy silver, and everybody would leave the table thinking, that's good for me and I've got something out the deal. But you do pitch gold and you pitch bronze, but silver's what you want. And for me, the tariff thing's simple. I'm going to charge you 25%. You've been paying 0. I'll probably walk away with 12. Everybody's happy. You feel you've won. I feel I've won. That's a deal, isn't it? That's business.
It's business and it's a deal. And in this case, Donald Trump, I think, I would argue, has the moral high ground in the sense that he hasn't put punitive tariffs on somebody above what they had tariffed us. So it's a different situation. If Donald Trump had gone out there and viciously tariffed people who had never tariffed us, it'd be a different situation. But by creating equal tariffs, he's saying, I want free trade. And anybody who escalates that up is saying, we don't want free trade with America. We want unequal trade. And Donald Trump's not going to let that happen. The American, Rust Belt has been gutted. And then there's this sort of trope that we're trying to bring, like, slave labor teddy bear factories back to America. Absolutely not. We're trying to onshore the means of production for high quality future factories that are even going to be more automated and whatnot, but that's going to be a taxable base inside the U.S. Things like pharmaceuticals. You just saw Roush in Switzerland committed to $50 billion of building manufacturing inside the U.S. because we have a national security threat that we get much of our medicines from abroad. And Donald Trump has brought in during this time of tariffs and all the kerfuffle and whatnot, over $5 trillion of investment has poured in from everywhere from but actually some places in Europe and as well as in Asia and everywhere. People are trying to get into the U.S. market. That's Taiwan Semiconductor, everybody. So it's been a boon in many ways, and it's something that we negotiated for, and we're going to keep negotiating. We're not trying to step on the throats of a third world country that has a trade imbalance with us, but we have to do a broad spectrum carpet bombing of the traditional or current financial world order if the American worker is going to have a chance. Keep in mind,
couldn't agree more. Wish I had more time with you. Just very quickly, your 51st state, Canada, had an election yesterday. Mark Kearney, whatever, he used to run our bank. I don't quite know how we had a Canadian running the British Bank of England, but there you go. Trump will never break us. That's what swept him to victory. When Justin Trudeau was the leader of the Liberals in Canada, he was a minus 25%. This man's turned it round. He says he's going to take the Donald on. Very quickly, what do you make of that?
I have to say, an incredible achievement for a political party that has 0.5 growth over the last 10 years, somehow has convinced everybody in their country, mainly the older generation, that Donald Trump is the existential threat and they're going to fight us. Meanwhile, we buy 30% of their GDP. They buy 1.5% of our GDP. Everybody who can do math will know how this will go. It's probably not a good thing for Canada to have elected him, but, it's a sovereign country for now, and they can do what they want.
For now? God, you want Greenland, Canada. I'll tell you something that'll cause certain people in this building to like, whoa, this country is so on its backside. In England, we say arse. I think we should become America's 51st state. I think that the United Kingdom needs to get with America very quickly. Listen, great, Errol, to have you on. Thank you so much indeed. Wish we had more time, but we don't. 10 to 7 on Talk Drive.
So almost 24 hours without electricity. That's quite something.
24 hours it's took. Exactly. We've used the little blackouts here. They last for an hour maybe, and you normally get some sort of warning coming through, but never that everything has gone.
Well, hold on a minute. You're used to blackouts. So last time I looked, Spain's a first world country. Why do they have blackouts regularly?
But we do. We've lived in Spain for 15 years, and we do get blackouts. It does happen. We are used to it, but not for that length of time.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 7 minutes to 7 o'clock. Thank you so much indeed for all your calls. Can I just say thank you to the team? They've been massive today. To Ryan, whose worm has been creeping upwards throughout the show. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you to Amy, who smiles. Nice of Mozzie to turn up, because she's frankly always abroad, off on holiday again in a few weeks. Oh, she's leaving. There you are, that's brilliant. And to the amazing Jodie, who puts just so much in and takes so much out of this show. 0344 499 1000. Listen, can I just say as well, that great story earlier about spam and corned beef back on the menu for VE Day, the 80th anniversary. Thank you so much indeed for all of your involvements. Colin in Doncaster, my late mother-in-law used to talk about powdered egg. I never had any, but she raved about it. Jezza, this is Brian from Rotherham. Say summer in Yorkshire accent, because it makes me laugh. I had corned beef sarnie today with mango chutney. By gum, stick your... No. Jez, what about a bacon roly-poly followed by spotted dick with excess fried up for breakfast with... Spotted dick and custard. Jodie, big fan? Yep. Glenn Williams, have you seen the price of corned beef and spam lately? Might as well be buy proper meat. David says, corned beef and spam never left. Beef dripping has always been... Oh, I don't know what he's gone about. Beef dripping, what? Corned beef never went out of fashion, near in Labour-orientated Wales. Sir John Redwood talks nothing but common sense and the truth. Great interview. Thank you very much indeed. Betty, ooh, even Ireland reforming... What? Jez, could you ask the workers at Grangemouth about all those green jobs? They hate it. There you go. Let's get to the phone lines at 5 minutes to 7 o'clock. We'll go to Salford. Alan, you're on Talk Drive. Just a couple of minutes. What you got?
Hello there, Jeremy.
How are you, son?
We don't talk like that down here.
What do you mean down there? You're in Manchester.
This is a city, you know that. Come on.
It's hardly a city. Is it raining?
No, it's lovely here.
That's a shock. Manchester not raining.
Now it's lovely. They'll be all coming over on them boats again, won't they?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's not go on about that.
Oh, no. Come on then.
Great segment, really.
Yeah.
Because it brings me back to the younger days, you know. My mum and dad, my dad died in 75, my mum died about 77. They was older than, you know, my mum had me at 46. Ooh. So I'm 72 now, so...
You sound it.
And we had nothing then. These people talk about poverty to make me want to throw up. Anyway,
you're right, mate. You're absolutely... And do you know what? Can I just say, hear me out a sec. You're so right. I'm so glad you said it. And I'm looking at them through the glass. It's not this generation's fault. But you know what's really interesting? We did have Nout, right, 40, 50 years ago. But everybody survived. It was okay, right?
Yeah, they had more resilience. The people had more resilience. I'm afraid the people in this country now are weak. But let's get on to the food, eh?
Yeah.
I heard my dad say to my mum once, go to the butcher's and get me an old mountain pecker. So I thought, what the bleeding hell's that?
You asked her to get a new pecker?
No, get an old mountain pecker.
Oh, right.
So I asked my mum a bit later, a few years later, I said, Mum, what was that old mountain pecker business? He said, it's sheep's head. We used to make sheep's head soup.
Sheep's head?
Put it in a pan, and put all the veg around it. And also, they used to have lips and lugs. Lips and lugs.
Lips and lugs?
Cow's lips and cow's ear holes. And they used to boil that, you know, in a pan as well.
Do you hear that, Jodie? Cow's lips and cow's ear holes.
I bet them youngers are really looking a bit green now.
Mate, they're literally going, oh, you can't get that down McDonald's. I don't know what's going on. Good man. Listen, great to have you on. Alan Salford, very, very good. Very quickly, Chris is in Sunderland. You got 30 seconds, Christoph. What you got for me?
Remember bar sixes or not?
What?
Bar six.
Bar six?
Uh-huh.
What's that?
It's a wafer bar in assembly.
Bar 6, you're right. Do you remember a Texan bar?
Yes. Weekend chocolate.
Yes.
Boxes of them.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think we're softer nowadays?
Yes. And boiling the bag meals.
Boiling a bag meals. I'll give you one. I'd forgotten. What were those meat pies? Freya Bentos pies.
Yes.
Give us a Freya Bentos pie. Take top off. Fantastic, that one. Nice one to have peas in it. Good man. Thank you, Christian. Lovely. The lot through the glass, right, are just looking at me like I have landed from Mars. No sign of Kev O'Sullivan with a minute and a half to do, so I'll just promote his show for him. He's on between 7 and 10. He does this show from Monday to Friday. It's an award-winning, highly amusing, much sought-after programme showing his tremendous abilities as a broadcaster and the skills of the production staff to provide such an interesting and thoroughly decent perspective on the day's news. As Kev makes his way to Studio One, I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, in a public service broadcasting manner, that you can reach Kevin O'Sullivan and his team on that all-important talk radio telephone number. Stop frowning round, I'm keeping going. The number for your delectation this evening is 0344. It's 4... I know there's a minute. 0344 499 1000. You could also perhaps use your WhatsApp machine on your little phone and do the same number as well. And leave a voice note for Kev and his team and say, "Good evening, Kev, you're such a great broadcaster, but why the hell